Go ahead, Jen.
Mike Dolson, Tom McDonald, Jamie Pluff,
Here.
Dumont here,
Here.
Carol Langford, Danielle Matt. Here. Bing Matt. Here. James Steele Jr. Martin Charlo, Len Tutti,
I'm here.
Lanish Trahan.
Mike is at that court thing and I know James said he was running late. Tom is also running late. The legal told us about that hearing that's going on with the litigation in Kalispell. We have a set of minutes from July 14th. Or, I'm sorry, yes. Carol, would you lead us in prayer?
Here today, we just ask you to watch over our staff who are up in Kalispell and watch over them and take care of the issues that they're dealing with. We also ask you to watch over all the families who have recently lost loved ones. Be with them at this time, and we thank you for a great celebration, 2 celebrations, and we just ask you to watch over our elders and our children. Komiat.
Thank you, Carol. Now we have one set of minutes from the 14th.
Motion to approve.
Motion on the floor to approve today's minutes. Seconded by Carol.
Our outcome for our donation to Red Shield. Trying to recollect that.
I believe they said they wanted it to go through the budget committee.
Okay. I guess my other question is would we be able to use our opioid settlement funds? Because that's what the other tribes are doing, right? Rather than using tribal dollars.
I'm actually not sure, and there's only really one tribe that's actually definitely put money in, and that's been Little Shell. The other ones haven't actually put the money. They've talked about it, but it hasn't been included.
Okay.
I thought that's why we were gonna look at Rocky Boys. I thought they were gonna use opioids. And so I thought we were gonna look at how they're doing it. Or one of the other tribes, maybe it's Little Shell.
Any further corrections or additions to July 14th minutes? Motion and second on the floor. All in favor? Carol? Unanimous. We have an agenda for today, July 21st. Is there any additions that council wants to make or any changes? No. I have a few issues myself that I'll bring up. Greg, too. Anything else? Okay, we need an action to approve today's agenda. Motion by Greg, seconded by Danielle. All in favor? Martin? Unanimous. Did we want to take Melinda first before, and then we can discuss council issues after? Come on, Melinda.
Good morning, council. So I'm here this morning to get approval for a project-specific agreement with Montana Department of Transportation. This one's for sidewalks in Hot Springs that are gonna be constructed. I was here in 2024 to get a PSA that was for the preliminary design, and now I'm back today to get the actual construction approved. There is a map that's on page 6 right here that shows where the sidewalks are gonna go in at, in Hot Springs. And so that's what this is for, is just for the construction of those sidewalks in Hot Springs.
So this has just been an ongoing since
Mhm.
2024?
Yep, been in design. They haven't done any construction or anything yet, but they are set to let it this fall. So they'll be putting it out for bid this fall. And I don't think they have like a set date, but I believe in sometime after that, maybe next spring will be when they start the construction for those sidewalks.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
And I'm not sure if you'd be able to answer this, Melinda, but it's like, when did MDOT started doing sidewalks?
Yeah, that's what I was kind of, I didn't really know about why they were doing these ones. Yeah.
I mean, because it appears that
Mhm.
the design of the location of the sidewalks, a lot of these may go through private lots.
Mhm.
Um, I don't know, it's it's
Yeah.
the first time I've ever seen this
Yeah.
before. And I support the project, but if they're gonna be doing this for Hot Springs,
Yeah.
they need to be doing it for Dixon and Arlee and
Yeah.
Mission and
Yeah, because it does say it's a pedestrian facilities project, so they must have some kind of funding set aside for these types of projects, so.
They did a similar project in Ronan going out on Roundby Road.
Oh, yeah.
MDOT does a lot of these.
Mm-hmm.
Greg?
Yeah, it's my understanding that this project-specific agreement is just basically to add this project to the broader MOU that we have with the state. So we've already established the process, established the working relationship through the MOU, and this is just to add this project underneath that umbrella, as I understand it.
Yep.
Yes, so motion to approve.
Motion on the floor to approve the PSA for the project Sidewalk Hot Springs. Seconded by Martin. All in favor? Carol? Unanimous. Thank you, Melinda.
All right, thank you, guys. I'm just gonna come up and get your signature on the
Okay,
PSA, Jamie.
yep. I don't. Yeah, I don't know if we need executive right now. Do we need, Danielle, and then Greg? Bring up council issues right now. Go ahead, Danielle.
Mine will be on the Catherine Coffee issue that kind of exploded online over the weekend, but it's been a ongoing public nuisance, and I don't know if we need to go into executive to further discuss that issue, but if there's other issues prior to executive, I'm okay to wait.
Okay, Greg.
Are you asking, do I need executive or is
Yeah.
it just what the issue? So it's basically just an announcement, is a last minute plea on behalf of Nkusum. Cheney Bell gave me a call and said that the trip that they're on with the school kids over just east of the mountains includes the Madison Buffalo Jump tomorrow. They do that with the foundation grant that they get out of Seattle. Come to find out, one of the board members for that foundation ended up being the chairman at Coeur d'Alene. So the Coeur d'Alene Tribal Council is going to be making a trip to the Madison Buffalo Jump in support of Nkusum tomorrow. And Cheney is concerned that if there is a strong level of support from Coeur d'Alene and no level of support from here, that might kind of look funny. So to protect their working relationship and funding relationship with the foundation, he is asking that any councilman that can understand it's late notice. Please try to make it to the Madison Buffalo Jump tomorrow.
So that is a request for you to travel to the Madison Buffalo Jump tomorrow, Greg?
It's a plea for as many council as possibly can do that.
Okay.
So yes.
Okay.
And 12:30 is the approximate gathering time.
What other meetings do we have? Go ahead, Jen.
I was gonna say, and then do we have quorum Thursday?
Yeah, I don't. Where is it? How far is this? How far is that?
You say go over the mountains like it's close. Isn't this the one near Great Falls?
No, it's just
Morning,
it's
Jake.
between Butte and Belgrade on the. So when you pop over from Butte, it's about 40 minutes out of Butte. There we go. That's the easiest way to say it.
Okay, well, we could check the calendar for Thursday if I don't know if would be a day trip or overnight trip, but we'll get it figured out. And so whoever's interested, let Jennifer know.
Madison? That's the trip that's tomorrow,
Yeah.
Wednesday.
Yeah, that's what she was wondering if if somebody had to go and stay overnight, if we'd be back for Thursday. So it doesn't sound like it is, that it could be a day trip. Okay. Okay. So thanks, Jen. Len, was yours an open or executive? Okay. I'll bring up the few issues that I had too. One of them, I got a call from Kevin Barber this weekend, and he said that he has been trying to contact Lands or somebody for quite a while regarding the Van Host property that's for sale. He just thought that the tribal council should know about it. It's something that that he just wanted us to be aware of. So I did ask him to send an email to Tony Incashola and just go from there. I just spoke with him briefly yesterday, just because he said he's just been trying to get a hold of somebody regarding this issue. He's tried Lands numerous times and gotten no answers. So I'll keep everybody updated when that comes through. He was going to send an email. I haven't checked my email this morning. It might even be in there. They're trying to sell some property, and he thinks that the tribes might be interested in it. I told him that we have a process for land acquisition, but it's always something that we should at least be aware of it. Like I said, he's been trying to get a hold of the lands department for quite a while. Okay, well, when I get more information or an email, I will let council know. The second issue that I had was I talked to Richard Lawrence from MVP this weekend. Keenan Keniston and Rodney DePoe traveled over to I don't remember where it was at, but they what they do is annual, they hold what's called a lineman's apprentice rodeo. And they and these are our guys that go out and, dangerous weather and whenever on the weekends when we need them. So they go to show their skills, and they took first place this year. And all the other teams are sponsored by their own, utility company, and ours isn't. They've never had support or sponsorship, which I thought was really not appropriate, because I know that MVP, sponsors basketball and all kinds of other things. So anyway, they were asked as the championship team of three. They have been asked to attend the international one, which is I think in Kansas in October. And so I wanted to bring that request forward on their behalf to see if either we could sponsor them or that we have MVP sponsor the cost for them, because the past couple of years they've done it all on their own. They pay for their own hotel, they pay their own entry fee. Like I said, I think that these are guys that, are out there in dangerous weather and on the weekends. And I think that it's, to be able to be representing us as a tribe and us as our utility company, but they're just out there on their own. So I would like to make that request. Could ask what the budget would be, ask him to come out with the cost. I think it's like a two-day activity in Kansas. Go ahead, Greg.
Yeah, we have Zach here this afternoon. Might not be a bad idea to ask him to bring that information in.
Good idea.
Then we can discuss it this afternoon.
Okay, thanks, Greg. Good idea. I'll send him an email and let him know that we want to discuss it when he comes in. Okay, thanks, Jen. Those were the two issues that I had. So, James, we are seeing if council has anything. We were discussing in session items. We have a few executives, Danielle and Len. Is there anything that you wanted to bring? Okay. All right. Okay. We will go out of regular session into executive session. We came out of executive. Okay, we're ready, Greg. Good morning.
Good morning, Madam Vice Chairman and members of council. I've got a couple things here for you today. The first is an amendment to the Polson West note between gaming and the tribes. There's a discrepancy between a 10-year amortization schedule and a 30-year amortization schedule. I reviewed this with Brian Upton, who drafted this amendment that will require gaming signature and council representative chairman signature. This is the most efficient and legally approved, authorized way to make that so that the note and the amortization schedule match.
I'm sorry, Carol.
Motion to approve the amendment.
Okay, motion on the floor. Go ahead, Len.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. So this is a loan agreement. Who is scheduled to be paid back first, the tribes or Glacier Bank?
There is no priority schedule, but gaming has indicated they'll pay back the higher interest rate, which is Glacier Bank first.
Okay. Thank you.
Motion to approve the amendment to the Polson West loan agreement, seconded by Tom. All in favor? Lynn? Martin? Unanimous. Go ahead, Greg.
Yep. In about 8 weeks, we have the mid-year meeting with all of the businesses coming in, tribally owned businesses. And I know that we have some loans out with some of them. I was wondering if you would be able to, during that 8-week period of time, prior to the businesses coming in, give us a status on each of those agreements.
Yes, sir.
Also, how are we doing on the procurement review?
I submitted a redlined version of it to Doer. That has been posted to Casey. In your meeting minutes, there were a couple of questions that still need to be addressed, which is, I think Ms. Langford asked for the bid packets to come in from the two awards that went to the same contractor got 2 awards. And there was some language in the minutes where you wanted to get some specific feedback on where and why the tribal member applicant didn't meet the criteria. But other than that, it is in Doer's hands to make sure that they're looking at what their process is or their procedures for creating an RFQ, RFP, and then the bid evaluation and implementation. So we have all of that under review. We're actually balancing it currently against the Code of Federal Regulations to make sure that any adjustments or amendments are done in light of what those requirements for a tribal organization would be. Most of the way there. The next item here I have for discussion is that the tribes received the fiscal year 2026 water compact distribution of $90 million, and there's an agreed upon mechanism by which we request on behalf of the tribes the indexing amount. This letter meets that template. I do need to get the names of these ladies and gentlemen here. I'm getting them as we speak. I had a meeting this morning with BTFA and they're getting me those names. Aside from that, this is the 6th installment of the indexing payment. This letter outlines the methodology by which it's calculated. It talks about the reference point in the December 27th of 2020 amount. It then references the 3 different indexes, CPI, PPI, and the Bureau of Reclamation. This is the calculation method by which those percentages are calculated. And then this is the formula by which we present and then agree with BIA. We are expecting 28,325,538.71 pennies of additional indexing amount to be credited to the compact and implementation account. In the past, we've split that dollar amount 50-50 to address some of the long-term needs in the implementation account and some of the ongoing needs in the compact. And with the 71 pennies here, you indicate that additional penny belongs in the compact account. So we've tied this out all the way to the penny for their consideration. Have any questions for me?
Len, and then Greg.
So Greg, the amount that is derived from the indexes, Okay. Is that separated out and put into another account?
It's not. It comes into the trust account, the main trust account, which you'll see 28 million come in, and then it is split between the implementation and the compact account itself, subject to the conditions that or need to be met to distribute from either of those accounts.
Okay.
Greg?
Yeah, this probably is a question for the folks in back of you as opposed to you, but I'm just kind of curious. So this request, it is, well, in the compact itself, there's language that says, here's how we're going to index. Here's the starting point for each index, methodology for calculating the amounts, and the allocation of the indexing amount between accounts. Right? So, I mean, there's all of this detail that is already in there, yet we need to come forward with a request. I don't get it. It appears to me there's no wiggle room on behalf of anybody because all of the specifics, calculation amounts, so forth and so on, methodology for doing that is already set forth in the compact itself. So why are we requesting?
So for the past 5 years and then here in the sixth, I've taken it upon myself to try to calculate on my behalf independently of what the government might calculate, just for us to be able to have two matching sets of numbers. This is the pattern and the habit that we've done over the past 5 years. There have been discrepancies. We've been able to iron them out in the meantime. This is simply the pattern and method and habit that we've gotten into to make sure that we get an accurate amount, calculating it equally between the BIA and the tribes. That's some background on that. Why are we asking? I don't necessarily see it as a plea or a request, merely an affirmation of the numbers and the method by which we get to that matching result.
Carol?
Yeah, this morning, Jamie brought forward the Van Vos property that, outside of Polson. And the tribes have been looking at that property for quite a while. And my concern is that I can only see Polson expanding out into that area. And I know at one point we had a special appropriation for, I think it was Hughes, maybe. What's the chances of that happening again if we make a decision to buy that Van Vos property? And that's right off of Kerr Dam up on the ledge there. I don't know how many acres it is, but it seems like if we could find the money, it might be something we should move on.
This is the first time hearing about
And I
the
know this
potential
is-
acquisition. I get it. We have a work group put together that includes Tony's team and finance team and Dan's team, some legal experts that go through an analysis process. And I think that it would be appropriate to say that if that acquisition has been brought to Mark's attention, then your expectation should be that that gets put on our next conversation in order to determine the right place from which the right path that acquisition might take.
Okay, we need action to approve the letter.
Correct. I'd like for you to approve the letter pending the correct addressees in the top line.
Okay, motion by Martin, seconded by Greg. I'm sorry. All in favor? Unanimous. Go ahead, Martin.
Greg, have we gotten any of the documents from SK Business Holdings regarding the storage units in St. Ignatius? I worry that the building season is coming to a very quick end and they're already a year behind, which puts them 2 years behind. now probably 3, so, and then if not, if you could maybe facilitate through economic development, have their board come in and meet with us, only their board.
To answer your question, I have not seen any loan documents or supporting documentation for the mission project. My recollection is that their last report was they were seeking either an RFP or a builder, but I've not seen any of the financial backup to any of those. And I certainly will reach out today and reach out through EDO to get their board in front of you for whatever you need. So the answer is yes.
And hopefully as soon as possible.
They're on schedule for 1 o'clock on Thursday for the 2023 audit update.
In light of that, would you like me to pause? Would you like me to reach out to on the financial side and push pause on having them in on the other report? Will Thursday be satisfactory for you?
I think Thursday would be good if we can just have it be the board at some point. Request executive with them.
Got it. And lastly, I have kind of a housekeeping item. I don't see it on the agenda schedule. You know that I've been talking with you for the last several months about the Sage Intact rollout, about all of the changing in software. We started that conversation with you all in October. You know that in January and February, we released the RFP. We had some people come in and talk with you about that, as well as addressed those concerns and questions. On May 27th, I forwarded to Jordan and Mr. Dolson and to the rest of council and to the interested parties the decision to go with REDW, but I don't have council action to move that forward. The initial statement of work is $271,000. The statement of work has been reviewed. The statement of work was forwarded both to IT, to Stu Levitt, to Delphine, and to our team. And I don't have council action approving us to move forward with using the Sage Intact installation, implementation, training, and support through REDW. I can't find it in the minutes or the notes.
So you need action?
Yes.
You need actual
Yes, ma'am.
action on the minutes, okay? Is there enough information, Tom?
I'd make the motion to that effect.
Motion by Tom to approve utilizing Sage.
The request is for the approval of the statement of work for
Statement.
REDW to do the implementation and training. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Abby, did you get all that? Motion.
Got it.
Thanks, Abby. Motion on the floor. Seconded by Bing. All in favor? Greg, James, we're approving the statement of work for REW. State it again. Okay. I'm half asleep this morning. Unanimous.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you all.
Danielle.
Well, we're still in open before we go into executive with legal. Ruth Swaney sent an email this morning, the request for royalty. Last year, we did a donation to all of the Arleigh Standing Arrow royalty. And she's asking that we do that again this year. Last year it went to communications budgets, but she's got it rolled out here on how that would be paid out. And it'd be for current royalty for on reservation celebrations. I'd like to make the motion to approve that.
Motion by Danielle to approve the budget recommendation for royalty expense in donations. Is that the line item that she has here? So instead of communications, it will be in donations?
It would be split between 025046123. I'll forward this to Abby if I need to.
Okay. Okay, motion on the floor by Danielle. Seconded by Tom. All in favor? Unanimous. Thanks for bringing that up.
Thank you.
And since someone mentioned powwow, I've already set the after action meeting for the third week of September to have both of the groups come in. I thought I'd let you know that we're working on that today. I'm talking about the after action report with the Arlee Powwow Committee and the Elma or Standing Arrow group. I'm just letting you know that I've planted the seed for the after action in order to make sure it gets done in good time.
Thank you, Greg.
Can we go into executive?
Out of regular session into executive session.
Okay.
Just give us a few, I think we just got, oh, just Danny. Want to grab her, Jen? Okay. We just have one person we're waiting for. Just give us a second. Is this your first time here? Thanks. Okay. Okay. With the, right. Okay.
I should probably push to talk, so I'm on the microphone.
Okay, well, she'll be in here in a second. So, Mr. Bodnar, thank you for visiting with us. I was just asking, I knew that you've been around before. I didn't know if you had actually been in our council chambers. So welcome.
Well, thank you.
To visit with us today, and we'll just leave the floor for you to say what you want. And if any of the council have questions, I'll just call on them to ask what they want.
Okay, well, thank you, Madam Vice Chair, and thank you to all of the council members. It is an honor to be here with you today. And I come today primarily in a spirit of partnership and learning. I would love to hear from this group the questions, the concerns, the issues that are important to the tribe, important to tribal communities across Montana more broadly and across the country. I, as you are aware, am running for the United States Senate, and you know, as I say that to folks, you know, I'm running as an independent. And yes, I know it's hard to challenge a two-party system, but I believe our federal government right now is failing us. I believe the toxic partisanship that is ripping us apart is failing the hardworking folks of Montana. And I believe strongly that it's failing our tribal communities as well. And just important as we get started, a little bit about me. Some of you I've had the opportunity to meet in my time at the University of Montana. I was president of the University of Montana for the past 8 years. But far more important than anything I've done is who I am. At the end, the most important thing is that I'm a son, I'm a husband, I'm a father, I'm a brother. I'm the son of 2 public school teachers. My mom taught kindergarten and 1st and 2nd grade. My dad was a 5th grade teacher, and they taught me the importance from an early age of service and service to others, the importance of education as a great engine of social mobility and opportunity for everybody. I'm married to an incredible woman, a pediatrician, my wife Chelsea, who you talk about the difficulty of running as an independent. I'm challenging both parties. I spent 8 years as the president of the University of Montana, married to a proud Bobcat. And so I know about rivalries. And Chelsea has spent the bulk of her career working to improve healthcare access, primarily in rural and tribal communities across our state. And we have 3 kids. We have twins, a boy and a girl who just turned 16, and another daughter who is 12. And the reason that my wife and I say my wife and I, because this is a team decision, the reason we jumped into this, and my wife is actually carrying a heavier burden than I am, because she is currently a single mother of 3, married to an unemployed husband, and we took that leap. I left a job that I love. I loved my job at the University of Montana, and I left that job because I feel that we as a country are on a path to hand over to our kids a country that's more divided, that's more in debt, that's less prosperous, that's less secure, and in which our kids they have fewer rights than we do. And I believe it's a moral failure. And so we've launched a campaign to serve all Montanans, Republicans, Democrats, Independents, Libertarians, Green Party members. This is a campaign that's not about ripping this country apart and focusing on fear and division to win elections. This is a campaign focused on bringing Montanans together to begin to address the many challenges that we face as a country and help us to start to move forward together in tackling the problems to shape a brighter future for our kids. I think there's not a person in Montana, whether you run a family farm, a ranch, a small business, whether you lead a school, there's not a one of us who wants to hand over the operation that we're responsible for in a worse condition than we found it. And yet that's what we're doing in this country. And I think we need a substantial change. I can talk to you about all those reasons. But as I said at the outset, my mom used to always tell me that God gave you 2 eyes and 2 ears, but only 1 mouth for a reason. And you should watch and listen twice as much as you talk. And I come here in a spirit of learning and a spirit of partnership. And for me, one of the most important aspects of my 8 years at the University of Montana was the opportunity to partner with tribal communities across the state. When I got to the university, I recognized very quickly that we weren't doing a good enough job as partners for tribal communities. Our Native American students, the numbers were low, the achievement rates, success rates weren't as high as they could be. And so immediately I created something called the President's Native American Advisory Council, formed internally. We met very quickly and met continuously with tribal college presidents across Montana. And really from the very start, being a better partner with tribal communities was a priority for me. In fact, I was deeply honored that when I was inaugurated as the president of the University of Montana, we had a very, very short ceremony, but we had a blessing on the steps of Main Hall from Tony and Kashola. And I know Tony has obviously passed. We miss Tony, but I was deeply honored for that partnership. And it formed a core piece of my focus at the University of Montana. We formed the Tribal Advisory Council, but also hired multiple positions focused on helping us to be better partners at the university level, helping our students, whether that was in financial aid in our first year experience. And we saw real results. We grew our Native American student enrollment to the highest level ever at the University of Montana. We saw the highest level of retention and graduation rates in the history of the University of Montana. We made real progress. We did it together. We did it with a spirit of listening, and we did it in a spirit of partnership. And I am seeking to serve all of you as your United States Senator. And I'm here today in a spirit that will guide me if I have the honor of serving you. And that spirit is as a partner, as somebody who wants to listen and learn from you and work together with you to do what's right for Montanans, do what's right for our kids today and for future generations. So I would love to take your questions, and I would love to hear the issues that are most important here to this council, and the issues that you see as most important at the federal level.
Thank you, Mr. Bodnar. I know that your 8 years at the university, I mean, the people that I spoke to, like that worked at the university, had a lot of good things to say with you, with your outreach to the Native community and everything that you did for the tribes. So I know that that's much appreciated.
We did it with, that would be the only
Yes,
correction.
in
We did it in
partnership.
partnership.
Yes, and I appreciate you coming today, and I'm sure that my colleagues have a few questions. So we'll start with Len and then James.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair, and Mr. Bodnar. Thank you for taking the time to come visit with us. We really appreciate this. There's a whole host of issues. We could talk all day on this, but I'm just sitting here thinking back on all of the candidates that came forward and sat right there where you're sitting and told us, I'm not going to forget about you when I get into office. Guess what they did? They forgot about us. And I just wanted to bring that up because, and I hope you remember this, because we're really hoping that when you do get into office, you will make a change for us, because these last couple of years have been really just disappointing.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I'm just to a point where I don't even watch the news anymore.
Yeah.
I know one of the issues that I kind of really pay attention to is the issue of birthright citizenship is being challenged. And that is at least from my opinion, that's the start of trying to eliminate reservations, trying to eliminate tribal communities. Because that's just the mentality this administration has, you know, and it's really kind of scary, because our current representative, Senator Sheehy, has signed on with that. And you know, he won't even take the time to make one step into this building to come visit with us. Not once since he's been in office.
Yeah.
And it's just really disappointing. But it's really good to see somebody like yourself step up. I mean, somebody that has gave up his job as the president of the University of Montana to do this. That says a lot. It says a lot about you. And I really look forward to seeing you succeed and being in office. And as I mentioned before, don't forget us.
Well, thank you, sir. And I will tell you that the reason I'm running is because I see political leaders that are ignoring the state, who frankly stopped showing up. And I've said to folks, there's a lot of things that I want to achieve and that inform our platform and they're on our website. But if I had 3 words that I talk about, our approach to campaigning and I approach to if I have the honor of serving you, is just show up. Come and hear concerns, come and hear questions, show up and represent the people that you're serving. And I one of the reasons I'm running as an independent is in part due to who I am and where my beliefs are. I swore an oath to this country when I was 18 years old, and I joined the military, and that was an oath to the Constitution, not to a party. And at the university, I served all Montanans, and I want to continue to serve all Montanans. And I've committed that I'm going to work just as hard for those who didn't vote for me as I will for my strongest supporters. And I will tell you that a top priority for me is being a partner with tribal communities across the state. The United States of America entered into treaties with sovereign nations. The United States of America over years has violated those treaties, and having a leader in the U.S. Senate who recognizes, who values tribal sovereignty, who shows up and sees Indigenous heritage and culture not just as something to be talked about in our past, but something to be treasured and valued in our present and our future. That was an important priority for me at the University of Montana, and that was good for all of our students. Some of the things that we did, we got a multi-million-dollar grant from the Mellon Foundation to more effectively incorporate Indigenous ways of knowing into our culture, into our curriculum. And that benefited every student. It benefited our Native students. It benefited our non-Native students, and it made us better as a university. And so to me, this is a key priority. And I guarantee I'm going to keep showing up. And that's one of the reasons I'm running as an independent. I work for you. One of the reasons that I think our federal delegation stopped showing up is they work for party bosses in D.C. My Republican opponent in this race, he was inserted as the Republican nominee through an insider deal facilitated by D.C. elites. That's who he reports to. That's who he answers to. That's who funds him. I don't have a party that I listen to, and I don't have a party that's supporting me. The only support I have is from you. And so that's why, even if I didn't want to, which I do want to, but even if I didn't want to, I show up because I need you. You're my support. You're who I work for. This is a job interview, and it's a continuous job interview.
Thanks.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Thank you, Seth, for coming to visit with us. I am a graduate of the University of Montana. A political science degree is actively shaking on the wall of my house because of the PTSD of all the going-ons and some of what you talked about. To think that we have a person in the White House that is unashamedly attacking people that are Antifa. And what does that word mean? Anti-fascist.
Yeah.
I am, and I don't care if they haul me off to jail, I am an anti-fascist.
Yeah. Every American should be an
Every American should be.
Yes.
Yeah,
sorry to interrupt you, but yeah.
Yeah, it shouldn't even be a question. But if you do not believe in fascism, you are called out, you are made fun of, you are arrested, you are beaten, you are killed. And I was watching some of your soon-to-be colleagues in the Senate this last week interviewing a gentleman for an intelligence office. He could not answer who won the 2020 election. He refused. And I'm glad you're running, but I also am anxious about what you'll be facing in DC. You mentioned your military past, and it's been historically true that Native Americans are per capita one of the highest volunteer serving members of the armed forces. I've been researching my Steele family for about 30 years. And on my dad's side, going into Canada, we have an ancestor that enlisted in the Canadian Expeditionary Forces in World War One.
Wow.
And I bring that up to say we're right on the Canadian border. We do a lot of trade. We have tribal people. Our Tunaja band is on the other side of the border, not because of choice, but because the US and the British decided to put the border there. Canada is one of our allies, and the administration is currently kicking them around, trying to raise tariffs on them willy-nilly. As you go into this craziness, and you mention these two parties that I don't think are adequately addressing the on the street issues that the people are facing. You know, the administration said we will make sure to lower the cost of you name it. The cost of you name it has gone through the roof. And then we see the hypocrisy. We were talking about the Hatch Act earlier. We see the hypocrisy of this administration to abide by the Hatch Act. Just blatantly, unashamedly. How, as you go to run into moms and grandmas and such across the state of Montana, you know, they're worried about the cost of not just eggs anymore, but everything. How are you addressing those individuals? And our tribal members are part of that group, struggling to find a place to stay, pay for gas, pay for all of these things. And the president is doing everything to accentuate and make it worse and not make it better.
Yeah.
How are you addressing all of that? You know, what's your focus? You know, and I appreciate you saying you're not subject to party bosses and such, but what can we tell our people when we say, hey, Seth Bonner came visited? What do we need to communicate to them that you have a concern for the rubber meets the road issues? Thank you.
Well, and this, thank you. It is the focus. Our campaign has three main priorities. So when you're an independent, you don't have a party platform. So we created our independent platform, and it has three priorities. And it says to make our way of life here in this, number one is make our way of life here in this state a reality again. And what's that mean? That means returning to and renewing that basic promise that says if you're willing to show up and put in a hard day's work, you should be able to afford to put a roof over your head. Yet Montana right now is the least affordable state in the country. Should be able to see a doctor when you get sick, and you shouldn't have to drive 2 hours to do so. You should be able to, whether you're a millionaire or whether you make minimum wage, you should be able to send your kid to a good public school where your teachers are paid well and they can live in the communities that they serve. You should be able to hunt, fish, and recreate on our public lands. And we should have leaders that live up to that promise made in our state's constitution that guarantees to every Montanan today and for generations to come to a clean and healthful environment, that we need to be good stewards of our resources. It means that if you're a member of a tribal community, your sovereign rights should be honored. Your cultural heritage should not be just protected, it should be celebrated. And if you're a veteran, that the promises that this country made to you should be kept. And those are going to be my areas of focus. That's priority number one. To take significant action on expanding housing supply, making housing more affordable, to stop these reckless cuts to Medicaid that are gonna crush Montana families. You know, Congress hasn't passed a farm bill since 2018. They can't get it together. It's supposed to be passed every 5 years. They're 3 years late on that homework. And we have a Republican, House of Representatives, Republican-controlled Senate, Republican presidency. They can't pass a farm bill, but they did pass this so-called big beautiful bill that gave $1 trillion worth of tax cuts to billionaires while cutting healthcare for estimated 30,000 Montanans. It's going to crush our rural hospitals. That same big beautiful bill added $4 trillion to the national debt that we're piling on top of our kids. And And yet we're not seeing any movement forward on the things that are affecting Americans. We're involved in a senseless war in Iran without a clear strategy, a war that we're losing. And Congress and the Republican members of Congress aren't doing their job. They're not, it's Congress's job to declare war. And the reason the founders and the Constitution gave that responsibility to Congress is because before we go to war, we should know why this was an imminent threat. What's our strategy? What's our way out? And we just now have an administration that's not only been reckless, it's been grossly incompetent. And we're losing a war to Iran. And all of us are paying a lot more for gasoline and fertilizer and every input. Tariffs, you mentioned. If you read the United States Constitution, and a lot of Republicans like to show you the Constitution, who has the obligation to regulate trade between nations? It's Congress. That's for a reason. And when Congress doesn't do its job, you get these tariffs that don't work. Tariffs, oh, we were told this is going to save manufacturing. How many manufacturing jobs have we added since January 2025? Yeah, we've lost 75,000. And we've crushed relationships with our Canadian partners across the border. I was in Kalispell, and they said tourism receipts last year from Canadian visitors were down 40%, and input costs are far higher for potash and for key elements of fertilizer. Everyone's suffering, and you have I'm going to be blunt, you have Republican leaders from our state who aren't doing a darn thing about it, and they don't feel like they're accountable because they think, oh, this is a Republican state, so we're just going to get elected whether we serve you or not. And I think that's baloney. And I think we need different leadership, and I think we need better representation that answers to you and comes and takes those hard questions and has the spine to stand up to a president, frankly, from either party, if that president's doing policies or implementing policies that are bad for Montana and bad for the country.
Thanks. You mentioned the ag bill. Sorry, my colleagues, real quick one. I attended basically it's the National Food Distributors organizations on Indian reservations, big long acronym. But one of the things that I became aware of that I wasn't aware of is, our tribe is what you call a self-governance tribe. And I'm not sure if you're familiar with that, but what it means is that we have the ability to take over and manage federal programs on our reservation.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're one of the demonstration projects from the 1980s with the Bureau of Indian Affairs and Indian Health Service. So we had the opportunity to be a part of a demonstration project in the USDA to practice self-governance over our food distribution program. But for whatever reason, we missed being a part of that demonstration project. And so part of the things that I was testifying to the Undersecretary of Ag was to allow that demonstration project to be opened up again. And it's part of the Farm Bill. And so as you're thinking about the Farm Bill, think about allowing us as tribes that want to do self-governance in the USDA to be able to practice that and be a part of that demonstration project. So just for you and your staff person, understand that there in the tribes, there's direct service tribes and self-governance tribes. And it's a key distinction when you start talking about federal programs on reservation. And we are one of two self-governance tribes in Montana, Rocky Boy and CSKT. So that's some homework for your staff and such, because we run just about everything on this reservation except for irrigation project. So thank you.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Tom.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Seth, good to meet you. I too was raised by two teachers. And I want to thank you for your service to the country and your service to the university and education in Montana. I want to thank you for stepping up and running. So, good friend, Senator John Tester, if he says you're the good guy, then you're the good guy. Politics aside, that's one of those things. You know, there's so many things out there, you know, that climate change, you know, the rich are getting richer, Trump's wars, you know, our housing needs, jobs, food stamps, Medicaid, Medicare, you know, our treaty rights. The last topic that James just brought up, though, goes back in time. And one of the things in federal legislation that's occurred time and time again is that there'll be this great bill trying to do something new, but they always forget about the Indian tribes. And we always get left out as treated just like a state. So there's so many things that we've missed out there because that due diligence wasn't provided. So the Farm Bill and a lot of things that they've empowered states to take over management and receipts from timber sales on Forest Service properties. They didn't include tribes to be able to do that. In fact, our tribe is better than the state to do that in the forests surrounding our reservation. We have the exact, even better staff than the state lands department does. There's no reason why we can't do that. In fact, we have more of an inherent right to those federal lands than a state citizen does because of our treaty rights. So, you know, that kind of thing, you know, when we look at there's just tons of acts out there that need to be amended to include tribes the same as they do states. Some of that stuff was fixed through, you know, the Clean Air Act, some of those things, but there's a Pittman-Robertson, Dingell-Johnson funding. I bring this up all the time. Started a long time ago from our great Senator Mike Mansfield here in the state. And, you know, let's try to empower fish and wildlife management, you know, in states, because these guys are just running amok. They're just killing all the animals. They're just not managing it. Let's set up a system. We'll set up an excise tax on guns and ammo and boats and fishing poles and all that kind of stuff. And then states, if they set up a hunting program, fishing program with licenses, we'll give that money back to them and they can manage their programs, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, they forgot to include Indian tribes in that. So all of our tribal members pay that taxes, do all that thing, and they include our land in the formula to distribute that back. And so it's really important when you have like everybody from New York coming to Montana to recreate. Well, we get some extra money from that because there's a formula for that. And we don't get a direct funding from that at all, Indian tribes. And especially our tribes get hit with it quite a bit, where a lot of people are paying a tax to recreate on our property, and we don't get any of that receipts back through any formal way. That's one example of bills that need to be changed or modified. The Farm Bill got many of controversial issues where they've left us out. You mentioned the, you know, Medicare and Medicaid, and especially Medicaid. You know, Medicaid is very critical to us in our healthcare. And to think about how it provides for us and how we run our own clinics or in combination with Indian Health Service. But these rural hospitals, and you know this, are going to suffer, and they may even close their doors. And so when you say, hey, yeah, it's 2 hours to get to the doctor, some people are going to be looking at 4 hours to get to the doctor, right. 6 hours to get to the doctor, if there's a doctor.
Yeah.
So it's just so critical to try to come forward with, you know, cross the aisle thing that hopefully you can do when you become our Montana newest senator, and, you know, reaching across the aisle, doing something with that. Our population, as you well know, is an aging population in Montana. We're not actually recruiting new kids. We're recruiting retirees.
Right.
Consequently, we do have a inflation on our homes and real estate, et cetera. But that's also an additional demand on our healthcare and additional demand on Medicare. And so Medicare, just like Medicaid, needs to be solvent and go into the future for so many of us. I'm on Medicare B right now. Of course, everybody, when they turn 60, whatever, 2, you're on Medicare A. But Medicare B comes around when you're 65. So that's really critical to provide that, especially for us, our state. The latest controversy, of course, hit the books just recently, was Social Security. And I just can't understand why we would be limiting workers coming into this country to help pay taxes, pay into Social Security, when we have this bubble of me and Greg and Carol, Mike and Bing, you know, baby boomers that are up there drawing on Social Security without it remaining solvent into the future. So Social Security is a critical element for Montanans, and it needs to remain solvent. We need to be able to fix that. We don't need to hey, you gotta work till you're 80. We need to fix it a better way. What we need is more workers. And for me, it was, let's don't deport immigrants. Let's deport the racists that are behind all this negativity and things that are happening. So I really hope that you have good strategies to figure all that out. You have our support, at least my support. I'm a Democrat, always have been a Democrat. Example of party politics is problem here in this county, Lake County. When I vote and there's a primary, a lot of the seats that I vote on, there's not an opponent to the Democratic person or the Republican person running. There's no Democrat or independent. And so there's just a couple of Republicans running in a primary.
Right.
And the only way for me to vote for who wins that office is to vote as a Republican in the primary. Because when it gets to the general election, there's only one person running. It's the winner of the primary.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know what? That's fundamentally flawed. That is enough to, shepherd in some massive change. That's just not right.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, I do that. I have to vote that way, but sometimes I'm also voting for the best Republican candidate, which helps out. But that's just fundamentally flawed with the two-party system that we have right now and the way we do primaries.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what you do with climate change, but you know what? It's a reason why a lot of our real estate prices are going up here.
Yeah.
You look at air quality, rapid fires, insurance for homes in rural Montana because of wildfire. You look at the floods that are happening, the extreme weather patterns that are occurring more exaggerated every year.
Right.
And it's not going to stop. So how do we fix that? How do we reduce our carbon footprint? What can you do to help at least slow this down? The ship's left the port. Right. How can we slow it down? How can we give us a chance to adapt, to modify our behavior, to do a little bit better job to deal with it? And so I think there's a whole colossal of things. When Trump first got elected the first time, you couldn't even say the words climate change. He erased it from all management actions. Any alternatives to do anything smart, it was all gone. And then the most disappointing thing in his second term, they laid it all out. What he learned for the first term, Project 2025. The whole cookbook was right there for everybody. If they were just literate, they would look at it, say, is this what I really want?
Right.
Is this what I really want? Well, that's what we're really getting. And it's unfortunate. So
Yeah.
I'm sitting here ranting and raving, but I want to know that I actually went to both institutions. I'm bi. We took Bozeman and Missoula. So,
well, thank you, Tom. And I agree completely with you. And I think what's happening right now when we see that lack of political competition in places like this, frankly, we have two parties in the United States, but in most of the United States, we have one party rule. One party rule is not good in Portland. One party rule is not good in San Francisco. One party rule isn't good in Montana either. Our entire federal delegation is Republican. And what happens is you have the national parties carve out these places, and then you have alliances that are based on party, not based on what's good for regions. And I've said I'm not running against Montana Democrats. I actually believe Montana Democrats deserve a lot better than what we've been getting. Chuck Schumer is the leader of the Senate Democrats. Chuck Schumer 10 years ago said on the record, on a camera, into a microphone, that, well, for every blue collar worker we lose in rural areas, well, we'll just gain back 2 voters in the cities and suburbs. And if you look at the leadership of the Democratic Party at the national level, not Montana Democrats, they're fighting hard. But at the national level, you got 2 guys from New York City leading, one in the Senate, one in the House. They live 3 miles apart on a small island. You want to talk about leadership east of the Mississippi. Boy, it'd be nice to see some leadership from west of the Hudson River. And that's the challenge that we face. And frankly, for the last decade at the national level, you haven't seen any leadership in either house of the Senate, right? The Senate majority leader, or Senate leader of Democrats, House leader Democrats, is from exactly 2 states, New York and California. And then the Republican Party, like I said, is taking Montana for granted. And who that hurts is it hurts rural America because rural America has been taken for granted. It hurts Indian country because there's not loud voices, strong voices. It hurts important issues of common sense, addressing climate change in the context of conservation and long-term sustainability. And so I want to build alliances with leaders from both parties, leaders from both parties from the West, from rural America that say, you know what, we need to pass a farm bill, you guys. Like, we've got to get this done. We need to make comprehensive immigration reform. We have to protect Medicaid. You saw what happened in Montana in these GOP primaries. The Montana GOP, spent millions of dollars to kick out moderate Republicans who dared to work with Democrats to protect things like Medicaid, to support rural hospitals. And their reward for standing up for their constituents was attempting to be ousted by their party due to not willing to just have blind loyalty. That's fundamentally wrong. And I'm running against that. I'm running to actually try to work on the issues that matter. And I'll tell you, one vote in the U.S. Senate, one vote can make a huge difference. One vote is the difference between Pete Hegseth being in charge of 2.1 million of America's sons and daughters in the U.S. military. One vote was the difference between a copper mine going into the Boundary Waters wilderness area of Minnesota. Both our federal senators, both our senators voted in favor of both those things. Neither of those things would have happened if I were in the U.S. Senate. And not only the things that you can stop, but can I build alliances with people like Lisa Murkowski from Alaska, perhaps, with Republicans, moderate Republicans who care about rural America? Can we get past their just blind allegiance to their party if there's an independent that maybe they can work with and better serve the needs of Indian country, of rural America? I think there's real potential for that. Senator Tester, for whom I have great respect, we saw progress that he was able to make in that chair. We've seen leadership Mike Mansfield was able to achieve, and I think we can bring that type of leadership back, but it's not going to be by electing Kurt Alme, who is just nothing more than a rubber stamp for everything his political bosses will tell him to do, whether it's good for Montana or not. Sorry to be political about it, but I feel your anger and your frustration.
Yeah, I hate to say this, but Alme is born in Miles City, and that's where I was born too. But when I think of good attorneys that came out of that thing, he's no Tim Fox as far as the Republican Party. Tim Fox is a great man, and I'd feel differently. At least I wouldn't vote for him, but I'd feel differently with someone like Tim Fox instead of Kurt Alme. But we have talking about the Republican Party getting hijacked by extremists, but also getting hijacked by extreme wealthy people. And that's a real threat here in Montana. These exclusive communities coming in and buying up big ranches and putting in these homes. And this issue we have up at Lakeside with the Millionaire Club, Yellowstone Club, putting in a massive development for nearly 400 billionaire homes at the risk of jeopardizing our water quality in Flathead Lake is a terrible example of what's going on here that has terrible impacts to us. And all of Montana is in the headwaters of the Columbia River. And this Jewel is one of the lakes that in our country, the largest freshwater lake of the west of the Mississippi. These billionaires are coming in and are trying to pollute it. And I don't even understand how that can be an issue when they have the funding to do it right. It's just so much greed, so much decadence that they think they can just come in and buy whatever they want. And it's ridiculous.
Yeah, I think you're right. Look, I support private property rights, but I don't support people imposing their will on everybody else. And if you know my wife, and we were talking with some friends who we've been friends with for 30 years. And my wife grew up in Missoula. Her family's been here for 5 generations. And she, one of the things they joked, she said, from when you meet Chelsea within 5 minutes, you hear about Flathead Lake. Because to my wife, Flathead Lake is heaven on earth. And it was a true honor for me at the university to work closely with the Flathead Lake Biological Station, the Sentinel on the lake, and the work that they've done for years protecting that lake. And that has been a conservation success story. And to think that that lake, its purity, its health is not at risk would be foolhardy. And we have to be guardians of that lake, of our water resources more broadly.
It reminds me of a couple of things that Mansfield did. He actually exempted Flathead Lake, unique to the rest of the waters from all the from certain U.S. Coast Guard laws. So large boats don't require you to have a captain's license because he thought that was an impact to the large barge owner, Thurston, who had a large barge building docks on Flathead Lake back in the day. And he said, I can't get a captain's license. And so Mike did this law specific to Flathead Lake. Additionally, Senator Max Baucus, to protect the headwaters of Flathead Lake and the system, did the North Fork water protection, and we did an agreement with Canada specific to protecting water quality of Flathead Lake. So, it's been done before, specifically to Flathead Lake and the tributaries of Flathead Lake. So I would encourage you to think about that, and let's do something, at least in respect of your wife's preference.
Yeah, conservation doesn't happen by accident. It happens through thoughtful, collaborative action. And the good news is 90% of Montanans in surveys believe that conservation should be a top priority. And whether it's Flathead Lake, whether it's the Bitterroot River. I was a meeting went down to a meeting at the Ravalli County Fairgrounds in Hamilton, talking about the proposed Sheep Creek mine. And saying, we have to be incredibly careful. And you should never fast track a mine that could have significant implications for one of our, not just our states, but one of our nation's most important watersheds. And so, absolutely, conservation, and again, we're lucky to live in a state, I think, that has that in our Constitution, and we should have leaders that live into that honor that.
Well, thank you, Mr. Bodnar, for visiting with us. It really shows a lot that you actually came here to actually talk with us face to face. I think that means a lot. It shows that you really are trying to build like a partnership with tribal nations. I like the fact that even on your platform, on your website, on your platform, you have honoring tribal communities and building partnerships. And I think that that's important for all of the tribes in Montana to know that you would actually be there working for us, fighting for our sovereignty and the things that are important to us. And just from your discussion today, it sounds like you are very educated on tribes and what meaningful means to us as far as being consulted. So thank you for visiting us. And go ahead, Carol.
Come back so this side of the room can ask questions.
I would love to. I'll come back as much as I can, and I'd be honored to speak with you and listen from you. Sorry, my answers got a little wordy today. I apologize. Well, but if my wife were here, she would have been elbowing me, saying, "Shut up, you're done talking." But I appreciate the conversation. I really appreciate the dialogue, and one of the things that I am really grateful. I know that that this group and on this tribal community, you've done a lot in terms of voter engagement, and I've seen that progress. So one of the, I told you about my commitment to show up. I'm going to show up. I also would love to work with you and having voters that show up and engage in the process. And maybe I can ask John about it, but I do, we got our first yard signs in, and I want to ask humbly, maybe for this body to have permission if folks on tribal land would be allowed to put those up. I know that's something this council looks at, but that is one request. If people would be allowed to put those up as we get closer, I would be honored to partner and work with on the Get Out the Vote campaign, not for my campaign specifically, but it's really important that we have people engaged and feel like they participate in that process. And then, of course, any undecided voters, I'd love to talk with them, and I'd love to share my message.
Absolutely. Yes, Erica does a good job, and that position, it is nonpartisan. Forget out the vote, as you know, but yeah, any help would be great. And if you need permission or for signs, our lands department does an overall permission, but individuals are welcome on their own land to,
Okay. I just wanted to make sure if individuals had that. I didn't want to violate any rules if they put those up. Okay, but it is to the individual. Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Except on tribal land, it would be through the
Okay.
lands department.
Okay.
Jamie,
Go
can you
ahead.
get a motion on that so then they can see it down there that they're able to start the process?
Okay. Want a motion by Carol to approve signage on tribal property for Mr. Bodnar, seconded by Tom. All in favor? Unanimous. So there's just a permit down the hallway there from our lands department.
Okay.
But individual tribal members can do what they want, so.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. And thank you all for your time today. I'm really honored to visit with you. And I'll be back here. In events, I was in our leave for the powwow a couple weeks ago. I was up in Browning for North American Indian Days. I'll be back here if there are events or places where we can, again, come and show up and engage with voters and hear perspectives. I would be honored if you'd make us aware of any places that you think we should be. I would, I'll do my best. A busy schedule driving around the state, but sometimes there are events or places that I might not be aware of. So if there are any things, I would humbly ask this body for your recommendations and your thoughts on places that I should show up.
Okay, go ahead, Martin.
If you'd like to come to Caris Park on October 12th, we'll have our Indigenous Peoples Powwow, formerly the Bear Tracks Powwow. I think we're gonna rebrand it. So yeah, if we can't
Okay.
endorse anybody, but we've given the platform to different individuals who are running for office that support Native.
Yeah. Okay, we'll put
issues,
that on the
but,
calendar right
yeah.
now.
It's holiday, it's a Monday, so yeah, please come down.
Okay, thank you. I will. Write that down. That'll get on our calendar. Thank you very much for your time today, and thank you for the conversation. I would be honored. I hope I have the privilege of serving you in the U.S. Senate and partnering with you.
Great, thank you again.
Thank you.
Seth? Or do you want to start at 1 or you want later, Jamie?
How's everybody? 1:30, or do you want to get back at 1 and work on the agenda? Okay, I'm fine with coming back by 1. Okay. Just stay on schedule. Thanks, Jen.
Most of you, good afternoon. So most of the council or several council were present on the 13th when we reviewed the request from Housing Authority for the water and sewer program to receive some funding for emergency type projects. So if there was any specific questions about that, otherwise we would recommend, or the recommendation came from Budget Committee to appropriate prior year IHS funding for these projects.
Motion by Danielle to approve appropriation of funding from prior years unexpended IHS funding for housing to perform emergency projects identified in the wells and septic system, seconded by Greg. All in favor? Tom?
One question, what classifies emergency? What's an emergency?
So, good question, Mr. McDonald. In the Big Arm replacement well, and also the failed septic housing identified, especially with the wells in Big Arm, that they are on a very restrictive use because of the lack of sufficient pull from that well.
So they're gonna go deeper and see if that will cure that. The failed septics are all individual systems. One is at Elmo, elderly homeowner. System was built by housing 30 years ago or so. The other failed one is occurring at Turtle Lake, and their immediate concern is the contamination of those waters at that point. The Elmo liner in that community, that is to take care of that situation and that sewer system. So those projects there totaling that 495. They don't have available IHS funding when they are receiving their project funding through the area for what they are calling a dispersed site. Area is telling them you can't spend that money on failed systems. You can only spend it on the build of new or like new. So that is why they are lacking the funds in their current year project funding or their program funding. And they would see that these should occur soon, if not immediately.
So their annual funding, they can't do failed systems,
Correct.
but in carryover money that came from the same source, you can do.
If they had that, when I'm talking about a prior year, this is the program funding that they didn't spend, not projects. When they have unspent projects
Okay.
funding
I-
that
I
they
see.
have to.
Separating it. Okay.
Correct, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, so yes or no? I'm going through the vote, okay. Martin, Bing. Unanimous.
Thank you.
Did you want to let her know we approved that royalty?
I'm sure Jen already.
Okay.
Again, I would. Thing, but.
Ruth, we approved your request this morning as well that you sent the email.
Well, now get the contact information.
Thank you. Zach, it looks like you only have 10 minutes now.
I can make it. I can make it. This should be a pretty straightforward decision. I've had a little bit of time to look at it and I've been reviewing it and working with our BPA representative, kind of talking to him a little bit more. What we have here today, what I would like to talk to you about is within the last year, we've selected with the council's approval, BPA as our provider of choice to provide us power. They have a new process now. That's the first step. You do a provider of choice and it's a 15-year contract starting in fiscal year 29 going through 44. It's a 15-year contract. But this time they gave you 4 different options. They said, how do you want to get your power from BPA? Option A is, we receive all our power, and I have the definitions below kind of for each one of the options. I have the definitions below, but just, quick stuff is BPA provides all our power, everything that's above our not CHISDA, but our what they call it, their contracted high water mark. For Mission Valley Power, using today's numbers, it's about 42 megawatts of power. We use about 48 megawatts of power in a year. So there's about 6.6 megawatts that we had to use and get tier 2 power to cover that, which is, if you look at that the paragraph on the last page, we pay about $37 a megawatt hour, which is about 3.7 cents a kilowatt hour. But if you go into tier 2, that's about double the price, about $70 an hour, which is kind of off the market that BPA goes and gets for us. You know, the good thing about this agreement going into FY 29 is BPA set aside 40 megawatts of tier one power just for tribal utilities. And they finally recognize MVP as a tribal utility, which is a big step for them. So right now, if we utilize the same numbers and if we utilize 42 megawatts of a power, we have that 6.6% that's at tier two. That will go right, that'll come right out of that 40 megawatts of tier one that BPA has set aside. So in FY 29, we're going to have all tier one power, which is, you know, when you do quick calculations with today's numbers, that's about $4 million in the good that will come back to us, you know, that we don't have to spend in FY 27. And then, so of that 40 extra megawatts that BPA has set aside, we're right off the bat going to take let's say 7 megawatts out of that, you know. But, you know, talking to our BPA representative, he said, you know, he don't have a crystal ball or anything, but he goes, he would see he don't see us growing another 33 megawatts unless something giant happens here. And, you know, the two other tribes are Yakima, which, you know, Ray Wiseman, he does some stuff out there and he does, you know, he works a little bit at it. But he don't, you know, our representative don't see us outgrowing that for years. He almost estimated through the whole contract, the whole 15-year contract, but he don't have a crystal ball. So that's, you know, the one thing when I think about it, and it makes it such a pretty straightforward decision to select that BPA provides all our power. Option B is we would have to tell BPA, like if we were going to generate power or get power from somebody locally that would sell it at the rate we'd need it, we'd have to say, okay, we're going to do 75% through BPA and 25% through some other company that would provide us the power. And I'm not sure we could get any tier one power from anybody around us for $37 a megawatt hour. That's what option B is. Option C is the other way where we could just tell the percentages saying, we're going to go get 50% of our power from somebody else and BPA provide us 50% of our power, which would be really tough. Then option D is that we go get all our power outside, which that's, you know, there's really only one option here that fits Mission Valley Power, and that's option A. You know, and we also have a couple things that within the first year, if we figure out something that could happen, we can pull out of this agreement in the first year. We also have the ability to generate 5 megawatts if we do some, you know, community solar stuff throughout our service area, and we can generate 5 megawatts of kilowatt of power that wouldn't affect this agreement. And the last option to get out of it is, you know, just pull out of it and pay a fee, which could be pretty expensive because by that time they probably already purchased their power and you know, got a plan in place. So yeah, so we still have a couple options, even if option A doesn't work out for the first year, or, you know, if we get down the road 10 years and say, hey, we want out of this, there would just be a fee for us to get out of it, which could be pretty expensive.
Greg?
Yeah, two-part question. You just touched on the second part of the question, which was if we don't like it and want to get out, what is the cost for doing that? The second, actually the first part of the question, and in my view, the more important part of this is the process that has been arrived at in making this recommendation. Did that include the utility board?
Yes, I've shared this with you, my recommendation to the utility board. I talked to the chairman last week and kind of went through everything, and he said, bring it to the board to just get consensus to move forward. So I've shared it with the board.
And the disconnect fee, if you will?
You know, that part, they never gave me a number, but I would guess probably it's going to be big, probably close to $1 million
That's not laid out in the option?
They're not explaining that because they haven't purchased it yet. They haven't went through the process of getting that all together for us. So that's why they have 144 utilities and they need to have everybody's answer on how they want to go forward. Everybody's been given this option of the 144 utilities. About 40 of the utilities did early. They've just signed it and said option A. And about which out of the 40, let me say that again. 40 utilities have already filled out their selection. 75%, 30 of them selected option A. The other ones are part of like GN, were there PNGC? You know, they're part of groups that are out there trying to generate power out there and buy that power from their generation. We're not part of that. We're doing our own thing. BPA has worked with us pretty well through this whole time. And tier one, $37 is going to be, it'll be unbeatable.
Okay, Tom?
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Yeah, Zach, you mentioned a couple of times, I believe, Mr. Normando is the BPA rep. So did he do a breakdown like the actual numbers on these for you, provide to you?
The breakdown on.
Well, I mean, like what options would cost this, like numbers? I mean, other than just the general common sense thing, you know, is there any numbers that he provided?
No, he didn't break down the numbers that the other utilities have selected. Because, you know, I guess I'm not sure if that's information he could share with me.
Well, I mean, even like for us, what would be for each option, like what it would cost us?
No, we didn't go that, we didn't break it down like that.
Okay.
No, yeah, it's just, it would be hard. It would be very challenging to beat that tier one rate.
Yeah, no,
And
it's kind of a common sense thing. I'm just curious if whether Armando did his.
You know, and the thing is, like, we could, just easy math saying that 75% or 25%, anything we go outside of BPA is gonna cost us more than $37 a megawatt hour. So that you could easily, right now we're paying $70 for tier two power outside on the market. You might catch it one day where it's, lower than that, but no, we didn't break it down and, go through each one of these and say, what if you guys did this?
Related to this, Zach, of course, this is our biggest cost, right? Is buying the power to deliver out there to all our homes and.
Yeah, about 50% of our budget is
right.
Purchase power.
So, and I remember that, we're required to do a cost of service study every year. Have you done one?
We've updated our cost of service with our resident expert there, Sergey, and we have a pretty bright future for the next 3 years. I'm not sure. We might need to go into executive for this if we want to get into a little more detail about what the conversation was with.
Well, I'm just saying that it's required for us to do it, and I was just wondering if you'd done one, because
Yeah.
it's related to this also.
No, he's done one. He's updated.
You've added some positions.
And like I said, he says the future, the next 4 years looks really good for us. So he does a projection out 5 years. So he's updated the projection again just recently with all our recent data.
So you have a cost of service study for this last year that you could share with council?
We have the update, yes. I can get the update to you guys.
Okay. I just wanted to factor it in because you added some positions that weren't in our rate base.
Yeah.
So that's an added burden that's going to come out of.
Can we go into executive just for a sec?
That's up to the Madam Chair.
Regular session into executive session. I needed action on selecting
Selecting
one of the options.
Option A is the recommendation by the utility board and the GM.
Motion by Greg, seconded by. Okay, seconded by Tom to accept the utility board's suggestion to choose option A. All in favor? Unanimous.
Thank you.
I have something for you.
Oh, I thought it was an award.
Oh, I'm sorry. Maybe next time. So I brought up with council today, I'm going to email you because I tried to print out a bunch of stuff, but it just keeps coming up to where I have to, copy it. So I'm going to send you the email. So I had seen where some of the linemen went to this rodeo and apparently they've done this for a couple of years on their own dime. And they took first this year, which I think was really cool. Apparently all of the other utilities, like their team members wear their, like MVP shirts and they're like a team. Ours didn't because they're paying for it on their own. So I asked council today, I think that I would like to support them. They were invited to go to the international one in Kansas in October. And I would like to request that those 3 individuals be allowed to go on behalf of our utility sponsored by MVP.
It's one of those things that we've not done. This.
Well, you know what? I brought it up on my own. They didn't even ask me. I said that I think they need to be recognized. These are guys that are out in horrible weather, on the weekends, and they did this on their own time. And I think that it's something that we should showcase. And so I took it upon myself. I actually researched it to see when that was because he told me that they were invited. So I took it upon myself to say, hey, you know what? We should be sponsoring them. We should be sending them. So it's not on them. They didn't ask me to do this. But if you could look into that and find out if you could find the funds to do it. If not, then I'll bring it back to council to see what we can do. But I think they should be acknowledged.
Can you get on the mic?
We do is the apprentices that perform and are a part of that. And if they place and are able to travel, Mission Valley Power helps the apprentices through. That's the only thing we've done in the past. So I will take a look into it.
Thank you, Zach.
Okay.
Hi, McKenna.
Good afternoon, Madam Vice Chair and members of the council. And I believe we might have Chauncey Means joining us online. Thank you, Jen. First and foremost, I want to introduce you to the wonderful intern that we have joining the Disaster and Emergency Services Program for the summer, made available through the 677 program under the DHRD and in partnership with SKC. So I'm very happy to have Courtney Old Chief here, a member of the Blackfeet Nation, joining for the summer. Courtney, do you want to say anything about your background or introduce yourself further?
Hi, I just wanted to let you guys know that it is such an honor to be working for the CSKT tribe in the Natural Resources Department. I'm getting my BS next year at SKC in Wildlife and Fisheries. Then I'm going to continue my education at the U of M in Environmental Law.
Welcome, Courtney.
Awesome. So Courtney is joining me in this undertaking that we were looking into that we wanted to bring before Tribal Council just to introduce as a concept and then just try to have a discussion. Leaving today, we don't necessarily need any big decisions, but we wanted to introduce you to this opportunity. So in March of this year, FEMA opened a grant opportunity known as BRIC, which stands for Building Resilient Infrastructure and Communities. And the opening of this grant actually was a big surprise. It was a very happy surprise across the state of Montana in the emergency management discipline because this grant had been closed for a few years, it was something that was more typically opened annually. But although there was a very happy surprise to see the grant open, it was a shock that this grant opportunity was very narrowed down in scope for what could be applied. So typically, building resilient infrastructure in communities gives an opportunity for jurisdictions across the nation, and usually there's a special opportunity for tribal nations with special set-aside money to apply to address a natural hazard, a solution that could make communities or infrastructure more resilient. This year, the BRIC opportunity was very specific in that it had to be a construction related project. So we couldn't simply, do wildfire mitigation or handle certain flooding aspects like floodplain mapping. Like, it had to be a very construction related project. And so when this opportunity opened in March, I had discussions across departments and with leadership such as Rich Jansen and Tony Inkoshola, asking if anyone had ideas that could be relevant for the funding opportunity, because there's a $2 million set aside per tribal nation. And so I thought this would be a great opportunity to jump on if we're interested. And since March, I hadn't really heard anything. Nobody really had ideas. And so I just had it sitting in the background. If something comes up, we'll jump on it. And it wasn't until end of May, early June, I was in a meeting having a conversation between Chief Cliff Fire Station and the Lands Department. It was only more recently finalized and verified that the Chief Cliff Fire Department is indeed on tribal land. And so we're working toward getting an updated business lease to the Chief Cliff Fire Department. And I understand their building to be pretty falling apart, pretty dilapidated. Once they have a business lease in hand, they can try to start making repairs through Lake County's finances. But this revelation kind of hit me in this meeting talking about this lease. I thought, what if these funds could be used potentially, just as an idea, to update the Chief Cliff Fire Station and benefit the Elmo community? And then through further conversations with the Lands Department and through Natural Resources Department, we thought even bigger and better with these funds. What if we rebuilt the Elmo Fire Station so that it had capacity to hold some Division of Fire trucks and materials, as well as potential storage for AIS testing or CWD testing for the Natural Resources Department? So this is where the conversation came to. FEMA and the release of this grant and other grants, they have had July deadlines, which has been very tricky with individuals understandably taking summer vacation. So I do not realistically think we are going to be able to run with this idea for the current open grant opportunity, but our tribal liaison in FEMA Region 8 in Denver mentioned to me that there should be another BRIC opening relatively soon. So maybe we could apply again. So I wanted to give you this context and bring this idea to you just to talk about some initial thoughts. If you have questions that I can answer, obviously I would follow the proper procedures, of course, if the grant does reopen, that we can apply, making sure we have preservation, cultural clearance on board, working closely with the grants office. But just wanted to come here. When I set this date to meet with you, I thought we would still have time to try to move forward with an application, but it's just getting too close, and we're having issues with the FEMA Go portal. The grants and contracts office is trying their best to help. So that's why I thought maybe we could just have a discussion to see what you think.
Great.
So I'm kind of curious, given all of the communities that we have and all of the volunteer fire departments that are in place, how do we arrive at this one? And in terms of the types of projects that could be considered within each community, were the rural fire departments given the opportunity to submit projects for consideration?
That's a great question and a great point. Initially, when this idea was taking form, we did not have a formal discussion with all of the rural fire departments. It's my understanding that the Elmo station is one of 3 that are on tribal property. But I know that, for example, Rocky Point is trying to establish a new station that would be on tribal land. So we because we're not necessarily looking at this deadline in July anymore, we could absolutely open up a little bit more of a formal opportunity. This just kind of was falling together as, oh, there's this site that could help the Elmo Fire Station and community as well as CSKT entities. And so that's kind of how it came together as it did, but we could be absolutely a little bit more, bipartisan moving forward, making sure that everyone's getting a fair chance.
Yeah, the best way to have people throw rocks at a good idea is to not ask them ahead of time, so that they can be involved in the process. So that's what I'm trying to avoid. I mean, there's a lot of projects and a lot of things that we can be doing and should be doing over the years. I just want to make sure that we have a good process that pulls people together so that we are each year hitting where the benefit is going to be the greatest.
That's great feedback. Thank you.
Go ahead, Lynn.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. So McKenna, just a little bit of history here. A few years back, 5 years plus, the tribes made a substantial donation to the Arley ambulance. And during that time and discussion, it was brought to our attention that there was funding available to tribal health to make donations to those services, fire department and ambulance. And so I've been talking with Joe throughout the years about what do we need to do to get these donations. And that was one thing that brought up was we need to reach out to them and find out exactly what are they needing. Because at the time we just didn't want to cut them a check but we wanted to start that process. Never did happen. So maybe that's something you can follow up with tribal health to see what we need to do to make that funding available to these fire departments.
Excellent idea. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
Any other questions for McKenna? So we're not actually taking action for this because you don't have time. This is just discussion and maybe next year you're looking at it?
Correct. I'm not exactly sure when the next opportunity could open up. This brick is specifically underneath fiscal years 24 and 25. So the fiscal year 26 could very well open sometime this year.
Okay.
So I'm happy to revisit when that does open. Hopefully it does. And it very well could be next spring, who knows. But yeah, just really kind of wanted to pick your brain and see if there's other direction even you would like to see this go. So I think so far this has been helpful. And if there are other thoughts that come to you after this, I hope you don't hesitate to reach out.
Tom?
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. In consideration of the Elmo area, I'm not trying to think of where's the fire hall at?
I should have looked up the exact street, right as you're entering Elmo proper.
On the right-hand
Right to the
side?
right-hand side.
Yeah,
It's a pretty small.
Okay. In thinking about where it's at, it looks like a proposal for a rebuild, a brand new building, right?
Hypothetically, that's definitely, I guess, the biggest dream possibility. And I was speaking with the lands department about this. We were looking at possibilities. If the Elmo Travel Plaza is to move forward, if that comes together, right across from that staging, so right where the two highways come to a junction, we were kind of thinking that spot that has been used for AIS testing in the past could be a good opportunity to not only rebuild, but build in a way that it gives Division of Fire trucks a storage place. So technically right on Highway 28 is just kind of what initially was being kicked around as a bigger, better space for multiple reasons.
Yeah, that was my question, is like where the exact new site might be. And because I was thinking of the powwow grounds itself, with other facilities that are there. Anyway, I'm glad you're thinking about that. Thank you.
Any further questions or ideas for McKenna?
So McKenna, a few years ago when we had the Elmo fire outbreak, we had some mass evacuations at the time, and there was very little communication that was happening at the time. So what we ended up doing was majority of the Elmo residents, we ended up getting them into the resort for the time being. Do you have a plan in place if that were to occur?
Great question. It's definitely top of mind given this season. Our current plans seem to state that the nearest evacuation shelter would be here in Polson at Linderman Elementary. I'm working with the American Red Cross representative we have in Great Falls to really specify which locations we do have identified shelters and contacts and which areas need to be better planned for and supported. So that's currently in the works. There is technically an existing plan for evacuations in that scenario.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Okay. Well, it was nice to meet you again, Courtney, and thanks for coming today, McKenna.
Thank you for your time.
Yep. Mark and Rachel.
Good afternoon, Tribal Council and Madam Chair. We were approached by Elizabeth Unger. She is requesting permission to film within the exterior boundaries of the reservation. Every time we get a film, somebody wanting to film on the reservation, they are to approach the tribal land so we can bring it into council. She is a director and producer of Jumpers, an independent documentary film that's going to be following the U.S. Forest Service women smoke jumpers and other smoke jumpers for the next 2 fire seasons. The smoke jumper school in that down out of Missoula told her that they do work with the tribes considerably a lot. They do their training up here, and that she needed to reach out to the tribes to get any authorization to be up here filming if there would be acceptance to it. They wanted, just in case if there is something here, if she's available to come in. So what her write-up is that they will be jumping, the jumpers would go in, and then she would be, or her crew would be, that's there, fire qualified and trained. They'll hike into the spot where the smoke jumpers will be, and they will be doing the documentary from there. So they were going to be contracting out through this. She's hoping that it would get picked up by somebody in the future, which could turn a profit for her. But she wanted to do this to get the limelight back onto the wildland firefighters and smoke jumping, especially with the last outbreaks. I did reach out to Tony Cashola on this, gave him a heads up that this request was coming in, since he used to be the department head of forestry and fire. I contacted Steve McDonald on it, and I've also contacted Ron Swaney, the FMO. And all 3 of them didn't have a negative to it. They said, no, that's pretty cool that they're doing it, but that's all I've got on it was feedback like that. It was just a thumbs up. Tribal lands would be requesting permission for the individual to get authorization to film within the reservation boundaries if we do get a wildfire that the smoke jumpers are called out on. I did tell her that it would be dependent on the availability for her to film. If it was in sensitive areas that they did not want, the council did not want them to be filming, or preservation or anybody else. So I did let her know that there might be some areas closed to any kind of filming. And she was understanding and accepting of that.
And they would notify where they're filming.
Yeah, when fire control calls them in, we'll know where they're going to be at. So we'll know exactly where they're filming, and then we will be able to get an update to fire control saying that they can't film there or not.
Okay. Greg?
Yeah, pretty much the same question I had. So if this is approved, kicking it in gear, is it just sort of carte blanche that they can follow a crew in anywhere, or catch up to a crew, I should say, anywhere? Or is there a contact person that they would then say, okay, there's a fire on such and such a range, smoke jumpers are going in, we want to go in on this day or something? Is there some way of being able to approve a specific filming outing?
I believe there would be, because every fire that is called out, that is the resource. So the IC of the fire, the incident commander, would be the one calling in that resource of the smoke jumpers if they're available. That's when we would be notifying them at that time when dispatch out here at Fire Control contacts them that we needed a 10-man jumper crew to come into Bazoo Peak. They needed to get somebody up there sooner than later. They would be able to, at that time, say, we don't want the film crew to join them on this one. They would have to be set aside.
Who would say that?
That would be the dispatch, and that when the resource specialist gets ordered. So any resource outside of our own personal resources get called up through the national base. So they call them up directly to see if there's a crew available.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Do they provide themselves insurance? I mean, this is when I think of this, the areas that are easy accessible backcountry where jumpers have gone, you mentioned one, but the South Fork's the other one. We can't have non-members go in there for this kind of purpose. And they could, an easy hike, they could probably get to any fire that the jumpers have hit. But getting to some of those Mission Mountain fires that jumpers hit, it'd be a miracle if they make it up to them.
Yes, and it would be the same way up like the Seepay Vanderburg drainages way back on the reservation on the boundary line where they've had to jump into.
Yeah. So that, I could see a crew like this getting injured pretty easy, and then there'd be a search and rescue event going after them. So, I don't know what the insurance would be. I mean, what kind of insurance they'd have for going into a remote, when you're a smoke jumper, you can't get life insurance. So right. I don't know what kind of insurance they can get to do this kind of thing.
Yeah, I don't either. I know that she did work out an extensive agreement with the U.S. Forest Service on it. I think they would be going into more areas of when the smoke jumpers were called out for the Narada fire, and they started at Narada Hill and were working there. So something easy, nothing that rappelling and stuff is going to take, especially like in the missions trying to get to some of those fires.
So you'll have proof of insurance then? And
they're going to have proof of insurance to provide to us.
Okay.
And is there some type of like agreement in place?
Not with the tribes, but with the U.S. Forest Service there is.
Go ahead, Martin.
So our primitive areas would be off limits regardless?
Correct.
Yeah.
Primitive areas, but there are some still sensitive areas else out there that we would want to be able to monitor if they're going to be able to go into. And work tightly with preservation.
Danielle.
I think that maybe we need to have our own agreement in place, like U.S. Forest Service has in place, before we be comfortable, because insurance needs to be there. There are certain areas, and then make sure that we're not overloading the staff. I'm sure they could have contact out there at dispatch, but when they're dealing with multiple emergencies and we've got somebody wanting to do a film, or we've got extra people out on those roadways, when emergency personnel is trying to get through, we don't want to
congest it.
Yeah, congest that traffic flow for our people actually responding. We just, but yeah, that's how I would be comfortable, I guess, moving forward, is with some sort of agreement in place first.
Yeah, and I did inform her when she did reach out to us that I would bring in just initial discussion points on it. And that if council wanted to dive into it a lot further, that I would get the email out to her to have her come in and schedule an appointment with council herself so she can explain all of that, show you the U.S. documents and all of the Forest Service documents on their agreement, and be able to discuss more in depth about the insurance and how they ingress and egress out of any kind of fire situation.
So, do you still need approval?
The approval really is you guys are interested in doing it, I will have her come back in.
Okay,
We'll move forward with it that way so
Okay.
we can make the whole discussion.
sounds good.
Okay.
Thank you, Mark.
Yep. And just an update, you did get the update from Michelle email that she sent out at 1:00 and everything. And waiting on the new pictures to come in on the Clayton situation from compliance. But George Madman was down there, so he's going to work with him again tomorrow.
Thank you. I don't know if all the council had a chance to read their email, but after this morning's discussion, I did send an email to Michelle discussing what we talked about this morning, and she had already made contacts and follow up with some things from the email thread from this weekend. And so she will be setting up a meeting with everybody, lands, law and order, tribal health, behavioral health, and she's going to take the lead on it. But thank you, Mark. Go ahead, Tom. And then
Madam
Daniel.
Vice Chair, just a separate topic. I was approached by a travel member concerned about a property we bought down in Mission, you know, from the big piece that's Moe's in Mission. And the house up there, the nice house, that there's a lot of traffic going in and out of it.
As of right now, yes, the leases got leased out, so the ranchers are going in.
Into the house?
Not into the house. We've been down there, but we've also had, the lands department has been down there. Scott's there, and then we also had a couple of our tribal lessees use the driveway in that to park their personal vehicles while they went and hayed.
Okay.
So those are the.
Maybe that's the traffic they're seeing. They were concerned that someone's in the house, that they're starting to go in the house, that there's nobody living there.
Oh, Scott's living there.
Oh, is he? Okay.
Yeah, he was a relocation from the
Okay.
Moe's site.
I'll let them know that then.
Yeah, that's why there's a little bit more traffic. He is the one there. He is the caretaker of it. As for the,
Yeah, I didn't know if that was finalized. Okay,
yeah,
cool.
that's
Thank
all
you.
finalized right now.
Super, thank you.
Anything else? What's that, okay? Scott Jensen. Non-tribal member. Underneath the Relocation Act part of it, of the water compact purchase.
Go ahead, Ron.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Some time ago, I don't know if I made a request with Tony or Mark, but we wanted to see a report on the Valley View hay operations. Are we getting?
Yes, we did get one up. We got last year's stuff. I believe it got emailed out to Tony and myself and Greg, and I believe council was involved. Desiree got us that one. Jesse is giving us some more information as we go. We only can really report on last year.
Yeah. Exactly.
What it was. This year's gonna be a little bit different because we added the Moe's farm to it, you know, kind of two separate operations by the same person. So we can get what we've got right now. We've already got the cutting down, being baled. The first round were a lot of round bales. And he was requested last year to do a lot more round bales because then the locals wanted to buy it. And the big square bales so they can cross state line. So he'll be doing a mix and match. And he's already sold the entire cut as of right now, tentatively off the Moe's farm. And he has a big broker coming in here this week or next week to place a huge order on that operation for Bellevue and Moe's potential.
What was the agreement that we had with him in regards to his cows? Grazing on tribal
He is actually leasing that underneath that agreement, that he pays the tribes an AUM rate.
Is it the same AUM rate that everybody else is, or did you guys go?
No. It's above fair market. So it makes it fair for us.
Thank you, Mark.
Yep.
I'm going to turn the meeting back over to Chairman Dolson, but before I do, Jen, you were out of the room when the governor visit was rescheduled from July 29th to August 13th. You got it? Perfect. Thank you.
10:45 to 11:45.
Okay, and then the last thing, if anybody plans on going to the Madison Buffalo Jump Day to drive over there, make sure Jen has these, make sure you fill this out for liability reasons to travel over there. I know Greg's going and I think I'm going to go. All yours.
Thank you, Vice Chair. I guess we're at the last item on the agenda. Pam? Sam and crew.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of council. Thank you for giving us some time today to follow up with you guys. As you know, Matea and I are regularly here for several different projects and grant things. So today's discussion is specifically about the planning process for a future CSKT Native American Research Center for Health, or we'll call it a NARCH. The us here today is our NARCH planning team. So myself, Matea, Hallie, and then we also have members online from our team. So we have Dr. Maya Pedersen from the University of Montana, and then Allie Manuel, who is the project director who is hired under Tribal Health, but also works for the University of Montana. And then I think that's it for our team. Joining right now, we have other members from SKC and the University of Montana. So for a reminder, a NARCH is a funding opportunity through the NIH and IHS that supports tribes and tribal organizations in building community-driven health research, research capacity, and training opportunities. So we are in the planning stages right now so that we can apply for NIH funding to actually establish a CSKT NARCH. Through this planning process, we're gathering information from council, the culture committees, and other community groups before we identify the priorities and what our projects would be for our application. So as I mentioned, we are coming back today to report out on our May 7th listening session that we had with council, where we asked for your guys' input on health priorities, research infrastructure and capacity, and career enhancement or mentoring opportunities. Today is what we call a member checking. So what it means is we're just making sure that we heard you all correctly with the information that you guys gave us. Did we capture the meaning of what was discussed, and is there anything missing, unclear, or overstated? So before we put these notes into like our larger process, we want to make sure that we heard correctly. So what Hallie handed out is the brief. The topics are listed alphabetically. They're not ranked in order of priority. And so what we'll do is go through the topics one at a time. And then with each one, there might be like a short quote or a topic summary to help kind of what we gathered as the meaning of the discussion around that topic. If there are quotes that are in there, they will remain anonymized. We don't identify the specific person who said it, just as part of our process. And so at any point, please stop me if something is inaccurate, if the wording needs changed, or if something important seems missing. Ready? Okay. Was a lot at once, so let me know. Okay, so we'll start with aging. So what we heard was local elder care and resources or facilities that could be developed here. Elder abuse prevention, education, and awareness. Alzheimer's, memory loss, Parkinson's prevention, early signs and support for families, and then possible connections between environmental exposures and age-related or chronic disease. Does all of that look like we captured the aging and elder care discussion correctly, or is there anything missing or worded differently?
I think it's staging. You're already doing it.
Okay, so then the next one, again, just going in alphabetical order, is bullying and online behavior. So a topic summary was focusing on teaching healthy relationships and limiting technological distractions. So there was talk about bullying in schools and cyberbullying and how that can impact grades, attendance, mental health, and that there is a significant lack of action by school administrators, particularly regarding Native American kids and how vulnerable our youth are being exploited, especially online. And then there was talk about, could there be training for children on the dangers of cyberbullying or technology safety, similar to what is done annually by IT departments for staff members? Is everything looking okay in that topic? Anything that needs to be added or corrected? Okay. Childcare and foster care. That was noted in the notes, but there wasn't a lot of elaboration there. So if there was anything that anybody wanted to elaborate on with that now, you are welcome to, or we can keep going. Good. Okay. So then the next topic was child education, educating both directions with parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, teaching and learning from the youth. So making STEM topics fun, helping keeping kids engaged through youth camps, more money for after school programs, helping parental education to help kids in school. So we talked about the new math, helping parents be able to help their kids through their homework at school and the importance of getting other family members involved. And then education, identifying identity, understanding who we are and where we came from. We're looking good on that topic. All right.
But Daniel.
I always worry about homeschooled children, and I know that they're able to get involved in sports and stuff, I think a lot easier than they used to be in the past. I guess one of my bigger worries is some of our homeschooled children getting left behind education wise, and how far that sets them back when they grow into adulthood. I don't know what I'm trying to say needs to be added here, but I don't know what kind of assistance we can give to parents homeschooling their children.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's the avenue I'm looking for, but
yeah,
we could add that in there, please.
Yeah, definitely. Okay. Anything else on children's education? Okay. So the next topic on there is chronic disease, specific diseases that were mentioned: diabetes, obesity, heart disease, sugar intake and how it correlates to diseases and mental acuity, and then heart disease in connection with physical activity. Anything need to be reworded, added to?
Did you mention anything about the effects of drugs and the impact?
I believe that is, we have a specific top. I thought we had a specific, yeah. On page 7, we'll get to drug abuse, addiction, and mental health. Okay, so next, yeah.
On the chronic disease, maybe include how oral hygiene affects heart health.
Yeah. Oral hygiene, how it heart disease. So the next up, community events. One of the quotes we had from that is, we as people like to gather and eat food, so creating activities around that. And then just the comments about community members need to feel safe, meaningful, and handicap, or need safe, meaningful, and handicap accessible places to gather with friends, share food, participate in healthy activities, and be able to look forward to more annual events. Does that all sound good to everybody?
So then the next one was labeled cross-sector partnerships. And so again, a meaningful way this was described was removing all barriers to care. How do we do this and who are our partners? And the discussion was around reducing silos within and between departments by increasing collaboration and crossover on projects, initiatives, outreach, because a lot of times divisions miss opportunities when they're not partnering. Any other discussion on that one? Yeah, I like that one. Okay, so the next one is a big one, food sovereignty and connection to health. A quote that was pulled out of that one was true sovereignty is knowing how to gather, grow, and harvest food. So then there are a number of bullet items there. I won't read through each of those, but I'll give you guys a minute to just kind of take a look at what was pulled out of those notes.
I really love the food sovereignty approach, you know, to be able to grow our own food, have access to our own food, no processed food. But sometimes I think we forget just about food security. And some people don't even have access to a basic meal, let alone the ability to be picky about whether it's a Twinkie or a cucumber kind of thing. And I don't know if that's the right place to add that, but maybe it goes under the homelessness part. But food security, I think, needs to find a way in there. I'm one where if they'll bring us a quartered up elk and throw it on our community room table with some freezer paper, we'd take it and cut it up, and it would take care of a lot of people, whether a program showed up or not to help. But if we could even just get sometimes freezer paper, those kinds of things help in some of our poorer neighborhoods. And how do we get the food that's growing in our gardens? Because we've got gardens that the tribe's taking care of. How do we get that food beyond the people that can actually drive out there and get it? How do we get it delivered into communities?
Mr. Chair. Thanks, Mr. Chair. My question is on education with elk meat. Is it, you know, we've got other varieties as well. Do we need to maybe broaden that to deer and moose, et cetera? So I don't know if you put a generic, you know, general term or all of them individually. Thank you.
Yeah. How about rattlesnake? I'll let somebody else do that hunting. Okay. Any other comments about food sovereignty and how it's connected to health?
Yeah, I just would add fish to that.
Yep.
We have a huge biomass of Lake Superior whitefish that nobody seems to know how to catch or eat.
Any other comments, additions, corrections? Okay. Healthcare. The biggest or the note we have there is just funding limitations for Medicaid. So if there's any additional comments, corrections, anything that wants to be added into that topic.
In this spot under healthcare, would that be the right place to, it says funding limitations for Medicaid, but is that also the limitations of people being able to make appointments coming out of rural areas, or is that somewhere else in here?
I am not sure that that's addressed in a different topic. I think we can add it into this one.
Because I think it's not just funding limitations. I think it's access to healthcare in its entirety, especially some of the access to treatment, access to, I've had some people say, well, they make me go to Missoula once a week to check in with meds or something when they're seeing psychologists and stuff. Like, we don't have some local, or maybe we don't have the right partnerships locally to get our people easier access to some of those kind of services with the bipolar and some of those, you know what I'm talking about, like those ones that I think we can get under control for some of our people. But yeah, I've had people say, I stopped taking my meds because I'm not going to Missoula every week. And then they're not taking care of themselves. So I think access to services might be a good one.
Yeah. Anybody else want to add anything to healthcare?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, at least it's not just funding limitations for Medicaid, it's actually being able to fill out the application and make sure you stay on top of that. They made it so complex that some people have just dropped the ball and now they're not eligible. They have to reapply, then they get behind. And so the complexity of applying for Medicaid is a barrier that needs to be brought down, especially since it's a pass through from the federal government to the state government. It's a state process that we have to go through. So.
Okay, everybody ready to move on to homelessness? Okay, that's another one that has a lot of bullet points there, so I'm gonna let you guys read through those ones, and then if you see anything that needs to be expanded upon, reworded, or added, let me know.
And this one, I guess, probably under the compounding health issues, I think the root cause of a lot of homelessness, or some of it, is mental health issues. And so some of those people either don't have access or for whatever reason aren't seeking that out. We're actually dealing with a couple of those people right now that are in that situation. That it's probably a mental health issue than it is anything else, or past drug use, or things like that, where they don't really care that they're homeless. So, yeah, I don't know where to put that in though.
Okay, I don't know if I'm gonna get in trouble with Maya and Allie on this, but like how Danny mentioned, like access to care and like talking about like lack of transportation to get those services. And then I just noticed that in the homelessness topic, there was discussion about no access to transportation for services, so then leading to an increase in use of like ambulance and emergency services. And if there's like if that was kind of also touching on what you were talking about, or just like essentially the overall lack of transportation to services, like from some of our outlying communities that then have to get from like Hot Springs to here, or all encompassing. Okay, yep.
But on the homelessness one here, I see lack of winter clothing for those struggling. Of course, we know what that can lead to there. But also the heat when those bugs are biting them and then they don't have sunscreen, they blister and then they get infection. We've got our homelessness people seem to gather together a lot and work together. We had one lady like with MRSA or something, and it's just like those crazy diseases that spread from them not being able to take care of themselves. I mean, they can't afford basic things, sunscreen or bug spray, but I mean, the access to shelter, right, to keep the bugs out and to get out of the sun, they don't have that in place, and so they're just exposed to the elements, and it's what the elements are doing to them, whether it's the winter or the sun.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Any other discussion on the homelessness topic?
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chair. I just, this is such a, we were talking about implications of that this morning on a different issue, but it is such a, when we have part of our organization that, for right reasons, has to evict someone or what have you, then, they end up at another relative's house and then it compounds. And I think, wherever they end up, we've said it again this morning on a different issue, is that we move them out of one place and then they're in another place and they're adding to another home. And another home is, impacted. And I think we talked about mental health as being a big part of that. And so I see that we're sort of kind of talking about that in this section, but I think mental health is a big issue in this as well. And and we know it's all tied together, and we were meeting with the candidate for US Senate today, and one of the gentlemen that fits this category just came in and was kind of out of it and smiled and waved at us and went out. But it was kind of hard to watch because I've known that person a long time and didn't recognize him at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
But, I think if there's a way to, and I know in other sections, but homelessness in terms of the impacts upon grandmas and grandpas and uncles and things might need to be, because it's much more than just couch surfing. And I think that's where I'm struggling is I don't know how we elaborate a little bit on the couch surfing part, because there's a lot to just saying couch surfing, and it doesn't quite capture all the different types of homelessness that we all see or have experienced or see our loved ones and community members walk through. I mean, sometimes they're living in a car, sometimes they're living in a camper, they're in a tent, they're down by the river, they're up at Mission Dam, anyway, sorry, that was the phrase that I thought I just need a little more clarification of some sort. I don't know what you could put in there, but just a thought.
Okay, on that topic, when we double up like that, most of the programs have household income and it's not divided by families. And so if I was to take in somebody and I was on a program, it cuts families off of programs, even though it's individual family income going into the same household. We're not allowing people to get ahead, and it affects their Medicaid and all of the programs that these families should be able to get as an individual family. But once we put them all under one roof, it's a household, and it just seems like we can't ever perpetuate it forward. We're actually it's those restraints that are on them. I think that's something that always bothers me. I've got a granddaughter, or not a granddaughter, a niece and a grandson, which I can't claim for any purposes whatsoever, which I'm fine with. I'm in an okay spot, but a lot of our families aren't. And I don't know how we overcome some of those barriers either. It starts over here with our departments where we've got to look at how we do that, but the feds have their guidelines over our program dollars, and I'm not sure how we jump that hurdle yet.
Yeah. Okay. We're ready to move on to the next topic. So this one was meaningful jobs in connection to existing career resources. There's a lot of discussion about building capacity for our people to stay local for careers, and I think it was, growing our own. So strengthening our community members to into existing career pathways or expanding career pathways for them. So this was a lot of talk about building infrastructure and having meaningful careers that people are able to stay here versus having to go to outside communities. Any comments, corrections, additions?
Thanks, Mr. Chair. On this one, we had a topic this morning about individual tribal entrepreneurs. And I think there's a part of that in this that, how do we're building infrastructure, we're doing all the things that are listed here, but how do we also come along and support our individual tribal member entrepreneurs, that often employ tribal members, tribal citizens. I think that would be something to, and maybe if you've said it somewhere else and I'm reiterating it, I apologize, but I think in this section in particular, it would be good to have something that we're supporting our individual tribal member business folks and such.
Okay, any other topic, conversation, additions to this one? Great. Next, so we have the topic of mobile transportation. And what was summarized with this one was proposed ideas for like mobile pharmacy or mobile grocery programs. And examples given were the Japan YouTube videos of mobile programs delivering food to elders to make more available, especially with the increasing gas prices.
Don't just keep after it. Our commodity program does a really good job at going out and bringing and delivering food to where they're at. And I think I've watched some of those videos about what Japan does and they do for elders in their communities is pretty cool. And then I think the delivering food, it definitely with, like you say, they may not be able to afford a vehicle. And if they've got one, it may or may not have insurance. It may or may not have, tires or good tires, what have you. So I think any way that we can encourage the delivery of food. The other thing is a friend of mine that lives in Missoula, he works with, what is it, Walmart's Spark, and they deliver, he's always down Hamilton, all up and down the Bittery delivering food and you name it. And one of my neighbors up at Mission Dam, she said, "Oh yeah, I had Walmart deliver me some groceries from Bolton." I'm like, really? Walmart does that out here? I didn't know, but I think that even if there's a resource to let elders know that, hey, if you can go online and order from Walmart, they may or may not be able to deliver to you. So, yeah, thank you.
Any other comments on this one? All right. So the next one is outdoor and community spaces. And the quote with that one was, "We live in this beautiful environment that we're not using or maximizing the use of it." And so there was a lot of discussion about how to get people more physically active and especially encouraging people to use our outdoor environment, kids through sports and other community activities, and then just connecting with the land and how, especially as tribal people, it gives us a sense of place and pride and self-worth to be connected to our land. So, any further discussion on this topic? Okay. So the next one is drug abuse, addiction, and mental health. Sorry, I'm questioning or alphabetizing here. Sorry about that, guys. Okay, so this was one of the first topics that was discussed, and the quote with that one that we had captured was everything is a priority, but drug abuse, addiction, and mental health should be one of our top priorities. And so things that were discussed were the opioid response, tribal health having funding that can support mental and other health related needs. So we should use this opportunity to strengthen this priority. And then I think there was a comment about, I don't think, and this might have been a question that we had internally as a group, but that it was like a different organization, not CSKT, that did a budget reorganization analysis that put mental health in the top 5 priorities. And I'm not aware of that at Tribal Health, but I am definitely not read into everything at Tribal Health. So was that something that CSKT Tribal Health did, or do you guys remember if that was discussed as like a different organization that did it and we should emulate? Anybody recall that? Okay. I'm gonna put a question mark with that one still, and I'll do some more digging. Okay. Anything that you guys want to discuss further with this topic?
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chair. I think on this one, you know, I know it's listed as, a priority and such, but I don't know if there needs to be an addendum or a footnote or something, but just so that people realize, I know we anecdotally know it, but, and experience wise, but just the overlapping things that what I have seen it, and it covers trauma and grief as well and suicide. I think part of the addiction and drug abuse and such is the overdose. When we lose people to overdose, just in the last week, I was helping someone get their clothes transported up to the recovery place that they're at because they went straight from jail straight to the recovery place with just the clothes they had when they got picked up. And so, and that person told me they know they had overdosed at least 20 times in their life. And it just kind of, just a casual conversation with this individual. And we know of so many that just don't even make it past one overdose. So, yeah, I just feel like my push is to add more, and I know you all got to keep it condensed. So I appreciate you listening to me trying to add more.
Not a problem. That's what we're here for. Okay. Any other comments, additions, corrections on this topic? Okay. The next one, related trauma and grief. And there was talk about how people walking through life and suicide is being the bigger picture of grief, and how trauma in its many forms affects people. And then there was a comment about how oftentimes we cope or comfort ourselves through food and then how that impacts health.
I think it covers lots of things, but I think it's missing family violence, domestic violence, sexual violence. And some of those learned behaviors, I guess children don't know what they don't know, and sometimes these things become normal, and how do we help them grow through that grief and trauma to understand life doesn't have to be the way it was in some of their upbringings.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chair. And thinking about grief and grieving, for walking grief and grieving in my life, I only thought of being able to access a grief counselor if there was some major tragedy. Okay, grief counselors are available if you need. I didn't realize I could just try to find somebody that's a grief counselor and just go to them for help. I know that sounds dumb maybe, but I didn't know the context of other grief counseling other than just, there's a school shooting, there's a natural disaster, there's a major wreck on the road or something. And I think, having engaged with that process myself and learned what, the different parts of grief and grieving had in my life, it just really helped me kind of turn a page or turn a corner in the things that I faced in my life with different loss and such. And so I think as we mentioned trauma, and I appreciate Danielle making that recommendation too, because it's such a huge part of this too, that the different types of abuse that our people have been through. And I was thinking of my cousin that was part of the church, Catholic Church settlement back in the day. And I think as we list these, I think also making people aware that there are options that they can get grief counseling, or, they're in trauma. Hey, we've, tribal health or other entities are available to help you, So anyway, thank you.
Okay. So the next one, we talked about research infrastructure in our communities. And so the comment with that one that was captured, how can we fix something without knowing the full scope of the issue? And so then there was, comments about the straw poll that was sent out and that it was an entire sheet of paper. We could have used that as an opportunity to ask more than just those two questions. And then that data with surveys is a point in time, and that data gathering is maybe not always entirely accurate, especially in Indian country. And so a lot of discussion about how do we get more representative data. So I will let you guys take some time to read through those bullet points that were noted. Okay. So those bottom points under the how do we get more representative data were the notes that we captured as potential suggestions that we could potentially use to improve our data collection and things like that. Is anything that you guys are noticing missing again, could be rephrased, or we didn't quite capture what the suggestion was, or maybe needs to be emphasized.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chair. Just some thoughts on, I appreciate the one being innovative and collecting surveys. You know, thinking of different places where people, you know, they might be waiting here or they might be, you know, accessing services at different places. You know, waiting room at pharmacies always seems like has a lot of folks, and sometimes waiting room at tribal court has a lot of people at it sometimes. You know, but I do appreciate you putting that there, thinking of places where people are accessing services, and then also having a variety of methods to, you know, collect those surveys, you know, by iPad or you know, what have you. You know, thinking of iPad and such as, you know, allowing for someone to do it on their cell phone, you know, having that survey be mobile phone friendly, you know, so it doesn't distort when you put it on your phone, and it, you know, how sometimes that'll happen with websites that aren't adapted to switch to a mobile phone. But yeah, I like your ideas. Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments on the research infrastructure in our community? Okay, so that is the end of the topic list. And so now I just want to like looking as a document as a whole, is there anything that you guys think that's really important that was missing or that we didn't quite fully capture, or that was emphasized more or less than you guys had intended?
I guess I wonder if communication could be an actual topic.
Okay. In what way?
Well, just our communication with everybody amongst ourselves, with the bigger world. Just communication.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chair. Just to, you know, when we put data in Indian country, you know, after this is all compiled and put together, you know, after you're done with the various surveys and such and contacting folks, what's going to be the, I guess, clearinghouse, or what's going to be done with this, and who's going to have access to it, and someone that says I work in Indian country somewhere says, oh, hey, can you give me access to this information? I know some of this will be public anyway, but what is the all's intent when someone wants to come in and maybe use it for not the exact purposes of what we're trying to do here, but use it for, you know, I expect they would give credit to what you've worked on here, and I guess more on the policing side of it, you know, how do we protect data in Indian country kind of thing.
Do you want to? Do you want mine to field the north part? And then we can.
Or, I will start with the TRRB. So what we have in place for that is a third-party data sharing agreement. So any projects that gets approved, a part of that approval permit that we have is they have to give all the data back to us. And that's where I've trying to create a data repository. So we house it, for anyone to access any of our data outside of here or a project to share with a third party, they still have to go through our approval process. So we know what they're doing with it, what they're creating, who they're sharing it with. So that's how we're protecting it here within CSKT. Maya will share what we're doing with this NARCH data. outside of.
Yeah. Thanks, Matea. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. I'm Maya Pedersen with the University of Montana. And, and we haven't received the NARCH grant yet, but one thing we've been talking about is that this project will be linked very closely to the TRRB. So what Matteo was just describing will likely go in as one of the major tenets of this type of a center, and the data will abide by the same regulations, the same protections as what Matteo just described with the TRRB. Data sovereignty is a big part of creating a Native American Research Center for Health, and so as the TRRB evolves, I imagine the NARCH would evolve alongside that and be in line with those same regulations.
Any other questions, comments, feedback? All right, well, we would like to thank you guys again for your time and letting us walk you through this document and all the notes that we took on May. May 7th. I don't know where November came from. But so we, like Dr. Pedersen said, we have additional listening sessions, and then so we're meeting with culture committees next, and then we'll do some community listening sessions, and then we will use all of that information that we gathered to then put together the NIH application for a NARCH, and fingers crossed we will be successful with that. Thank you, guys.
Well, thank you for all you're doing. Pretty important work.
If you guys think of anything else later on, feel free to email me. I do think there's a document somewhere in here that lists my email address, or maybe it was the old one, as cskt.org. I believe that actually exists, but please use my tribal health one because I don't check the CSKT one. That was just for access to the intranet many years ago. All right, thank you all.
Thank you all. Have a good day.
You too.
Thank you. Have a good day, everyone.
It looks like the agenda. I got Lynn and then you, Ken.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to quickly bring up Morningstar. Morningstar is something we need to reevaluate, I think. Showing up there over the weekend, nothing worse than going to a sober living facility and seeing beer cans laying all over. That reflects on us. And I I remember Ann and her staff were trying to explain why they should allow drinking on this facility. Makes no sense. Makes no sense at all. And for us as council to allow a policy like that in a sober living facility, especially knowing that there is limited staff on the weekends, and I believe after hours from when it gets dark to whatever, it's a free for all. People start showing up there. The other issue that was brought to my attention was there are 7 vacancies that have been vacant for a long time. 4 of them, of which they have a contractor that's been working on there since February. That they come and go as they please. Nobody's really holding them accountable about when these need to be finished. And I mean, this is a facility that should be full all the time. And I also questioning wraparound services. What kind of services are being provided there? With And I'm not blaming the staff, it's just limited, when they have limited staff, what can they really get done over there? And yeah, it was just frustrating to see. And I think that's something we should. And some time ago, Mr. Chairman, I asked you if you would ask Ann to come in and provide us a report on where we were with some of those issues that I brought up. So if we can still get that in the planning stages, I would sure appreciate that. I think that's something we need to address, because we need to make some changes to make this place successful, to succeed. People are depending on changing their lives around and getting another start. And if we're not doing that, what do we need to do to get that done? So.
Hey, Lynn, just in regard to Lynn, go ahead, Jamie.
Yeah, I wanted to say that I think, first of all, I know what Ann would tell you is it's not alcohol, it's not a sober living facility. They really clarify that because it's a housing first model, which I know Ann has described before. When I visited Tulalip a couple years ago, they have, different levels of housing. And one of them is like Morningstar, but that they, because they understand it, you got to meet people where they're at. But the difference from there to Morningstar is they have security 24/7 there. They don't allow visitors to come and it like to just be a party. So I think the concept, what they're doing, I get it, but when there's no security and no oversight, it's just not going to work. It's just not. But we have to be able to offer different places to meet people where they're at. I mean, I think that is important, and have those wraparound services. I've always thought that the Morning Star, a facility like that, should be under the homelessness program, because I think that the homelessness or coordinator or whatever, they need to focus on all those different levels of where people are at. And Morningstar, it's continued to have complaints about how it's run, and I think it really does need to be reviewed.
Hey, Carol and then Danielle.
Just gonna say, maybe we should make it into an anchor way too. Because I thought there was concepts and things going on up at Anchor Way that was going really well. And made that facility into the Anchor Way, and then that tribal health and them do their stuff on mental health issues. Cause there'll be more security and stuff up there, but then we need to fund it, like Martin said. That needs to be funded just as well as, cause right now it's not. That's why they can't hire people. But it's kind of a scary place to have to work too, if you're not using, you have all these drug users and people doing crazy stuff there. So I don't know. That's what I'd like to see.
No, I believe in the last budget committee meeting, there was a request for additional staff there. I would be interested to go take a tour, and I am curious about the wraparound services and what that actually looks like. Maybe them let us know what wraparound is, how are they visiting them frequently, or, I mean, I don't know what that looks like. I hear a lot of it, but I think Defender's Office also put in for a grant. I don't know if it's been approved yet, but they're looking at making a new Morningstar facility where I think it would make a great Anchorway 2.0. And then if Tawahi can also get their hands in there on some of those, and that's breaking those silos and not making, but having these departments work together, I think it could be successful. I think you're right, Len, it's understaffed, and maybe a tour will help us decide if the housing first model is right for us here, or if we need to go to an alcohol-free model. But I think I'd like to go on a tour and see.
I know that when we've had reports, it's always been prioritized housing first. And they always emphasize that the tenants could could deny getting services if they wanted to, that they didn't have to have those services. And that just rubbed me wrong then and now and forever. Then
You know, this policy of allowing alcohol there, a joke. It's just a joke. I mean, people are laughing at us because we put that policy in place. I mean, we're trying to help these people. And I remember when Ann was trying to explain the concept of why they were allowing people to drink alcohol. That don't work with Indians. We just can't have one beer. They gotta go all out. That's just the nature. I mean, it's just the way it's always been. But I think that's just a policy we need to seriously reconsider. But like I said, I want to see this place succeed. And when I stepped in there the other morning and seen all the tall boys and the white claws and all laying around in the yard, I mean, I wish I would have took a picture. I should have showed you guys. I didn't think about it till after I drove off, but it was yeah, I was just kind of disheartening to see something like that. And because you know what, there was a lot of people that put a lot of work into Morning Star, and everybody had good intentions on well, this is a good way to help our people get back on their feet again. And you know, some of the other stories that I get, and I get it from my brother. My brother's there. He tells me firsthand. Told me firsthand what happens, especially after midnight. People know, they actually know when to show up over there. But yeah, I just wanted to mention that, and I think, like I said, I think we need to reconsider the alcohol policy.
oh,
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, from day one, I've been objecting to this, especially on Main Street in Ronan. I think the experiment would be better suited in a different location. But I have not been supportive of this from the get-go. I just don't. I'm just like Len, and everything. People complain to me all the time about it. I just didn't understand it. You know, the supportive housing is great, but the allowance of alcohol and drugs on the property just doesn't work. It doesn't work in that location. I would revisit the policy.
more on the Morning Star before we get Jake. Go ahead, Jake.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I want to ask that we have some time set aside on Thursday. We need to talk about the code of conduct issue. And I have written up what I think are a charging document, but I'm open to suggestions as to whether it should be code of conduct or what have you. So I think we need to make time on the agenda for Thursday to discuss that.
Thank you, James. Len?
Well, it was my understanding that the legal department has already put together an edited version of the document that we need to review and sign and move it and just move it forward. That was my understanding. And then it was also during that discussion, it was a five-step process that we needed to follow per the Constitution. And I thought that the statement to charges document was, or the code of conduct document was the first item that we needed to address. Already approved by legal.
I know legal has a draft of a charging document. And
No, they have done it.
And I think James is right that we need to be together and talk about it.
And I
And-
remember
Great.
Councilman Dumontier requested that we have the legal department come down here and clarify
Yeah, the pipe
exactly
steps.
what we need to be following and adhering to.
Jamie,
Dan did say before he left, he was here for legal, but he had said that if we wanted him to come down at the end of the day, him and John are available.
James has asked for it on Thursday. I think we'll do that. I did want to just say that the hearing was an interesting place this morning. It's interesting that the DEQ is resting all of their decisions on that being a homogeneous substrate throughout that whole region for dumping that sewage in, when in fact it's clearly that they have documentation that it's heterogeneous. And they are basically saying, well, we're following the model we think we need to follow. It's just ludicrous, just absolutely ludicrous. And the lawyer that's arguing for us is named Guy, and he did a good job today. So, interesting hearing. Now, Carol, we're adjourned. Thank you all.